Everybody, and welcome. I'm Aurora. This is Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans. I hesitated for a minute because I was like, wait a minute, which lesson are we on? One of my favorites, Level 1, Lesson 7, which is called the Rainbow Journey, and will actually be a very good opportunity for me to describe everything that is about, my ongoing use of the rainbow, thematic visual topic in all of my work, and why I'm so affiliated with it and why it is so important for us. And I'm also going to use this as an opportunity to talk about something that I wrote about today in this post-eclipse moment that we are in, as I'm having different insights. And I actually wrote a relatively long letter about this and shared it on my Patreon. And also I shared it on YouTube, where there is a place where you can receive posts, written posts, not just videos from me, that is about the distinction between technology using space races and myself as a stellar presence. So this is going to be some stuff from 10 years ago that I'm going to talk about that is always in style and is always appropriate and accurate to your journey. But what's most contextually relevant to you right now is the comprehension of who and what are extraterrestrials. And we'll talk about how linear time is not adequate language to be able to comprehend what is happening in your present day experience regarding your interactions with perceived extraterrestrials, your interactions with what is perceived as demons, or even beyond, like pesky occupiers of the interstices, consciousness residues that have been feeding off of your emotional pain body that relate directly to both AI. There's no problem speaking openly about AI, but there are minor problems about speaking openly about this stuff, which is what AI has put into people as a type of interface. So big, good stuff. And, I would love it if I lived in a world where I could just be like, I'll teach everyone about the rainbow journey. And, we'll all sing like whatever, that Kermit song from the Rainbow Connection. But it's not that moment. This is a very, very difficult, perilous moment. And I would be a blithe idiot if I did not refer to it. So first of all, a little bit of house cleaning. I'm so very excited because I'm getting a wonderful group of people signed up together to be able to come to my Flying Rainbow Lasagna themed dance movement retreat that is being planned for May 13th through 16th of this year. And that's in Sedona, Arizona. And just very briefly, because I know I've spoken about this before, and you can find all the details. I will make certain that the document is in the description of this video. I have about, I think, 3 more spaces left in terms of accommodations at the actual retreat. So yes, you can put down a deposit or be sure to contact me with your interest in that. Why would you want to do this? Because Flying Rainbow Lasagna is basically cultivation of a higher dimensional energy field. And it is that moment of, as I talk about in class, the little ant that has been 2-dimensional in its experience of linear time, either jumping up and over obstacles or off of the surface of the leaf for greater levels of freedom and movement through time space. But also, it is the folding and bending of the fabric of time space in very artistic and specific patterns, non-random patterns, so that seemingly far distant objects, people, or events become immediately available and communicative. It's a magical activity, and it is something that is best learned through direct embodiment and being in the presence of others. Although it's so wonderful. When you are in the class here, you're doing very good work towards your own personal lasagna journey and education, because the software changes your hardware. I'm not a transhumanist. I use these as allegories. New thought structures make your DNA not only behave differently, but shaped differently. And it causes a complete restructuring of your physical body. So actually, this is a good jumping off point for me to be able to talk about other things, genetic pollutions, like why do we have to Flying Rainbow Lasagna? And the real answer to that is because currently humanity is not in the body that is the pristine human body. Humanity has already been, you could call it hybridized, but a very negative form of hybridization, a dilution of your true natural characteristics and capabilities. And I come from a time in ancient or concurrent Atlantis where I lived or live in a pristine human form. So I speak about what I know about. And I can tell you that some of the things, it's not about like having whatever 12 eyeballs or 5 ears or anything like that. It is more about a neutering that happened that was very, very specific and selective, and that happened in subsequent levels of time or subsequent areas of what you know as human history, a diminishment of your human potential, disconnection from God, divine presence. Let me just grab my sculpture, the source of everything, which you should be continually in contact with and in rapport with this level of reality here. But the genetic degradations took that away from you, and also not only distorted your DNA, but in order for DNA to even be assaulted and distorted, its natural protective and defensive and even offensive mechanisms or measurements had to be neutered. That's the real thing that happened. And so when I have taught you about the binding spell that was placed on humanity with the death of the teacher from 2000 years ago and the false teachings about nonviolence, turning the other cheek, and basically allowing yourself to be abused by this stuff. This is not your neighbor. Do not love your, you must, wait, say it correctly. Love thy neighbor. This guy ain't your neighbor. Do not love this guy. Remember, no kumbaya with demons, no kumbaya with doo-doos and poops. Kumbaya with doo-doos and poops, no. Because those things are aberrances or impossibilities or things that should not actually be in existence. You're like, I already can feel you guys swirling. You're like, Aurora, we're swirling out of control. Bring this into alignment here. Okay, wait, so first finish up on Sedona. You want to be there because get to be in the physical presence of me emanating flying rainbow lasagna energy field. And it's one of the best ways to learn, like through embodiment. If you're going to learn piano or guitar, be in the presence of the person who's teaching you, or definitely dance. And this is for anyone who doesn't know, like the flying rainbow lasagna is an actual dance. And so just briefly about me, when I first came here and have been here as a walk-in in this body for over 20 years, I always did my dance, but I did not initially share my dance. My dance was a very, very private, cosmic rapport with the sun and the stars and myself in freedom. And I really didn't display it to anyone. I didn't keep it a secret, but like the only people who saw me were like a neighbor that, you know, inadvertently saw me while I was in my lawn chair doing my thing. And one time, like my landlord who walked into the room, my headphones were on, I couldn't hear him, so he just walked in. And they just see me doing this lasagna. I have no idea what this is. This is from many, many years ago. So initially I did not share it. And I found it to be something that was sacred and private. And in about 2019 or so, I had developed not only enough of my own like inner strength and security in the dance and in what I'm doing, but also I had gotten to the conclusion that it was really responsible and positive for me to share the dance. Like I didn't come here into this world in order to keep the flying rainbow lasagna a secret, far from it. I felt that the dance was very special and that I didn't want it to be influenced or misinterpreted, like that I would be influenced by others' presence or that it would be misinterpreted as I'm displaying it to others, because I had to learn, like in this world, dance is something very different. So in this world, dance is something that is about attracting suitors, or like it's a pre-sexual activity for people to be able to display their body shape. And it's also something decorative like ballet or something like that. Sometimes it involves, you know, tribalism, like expressions of nation state communications and things like that. But dance is rarely respected as something that is a sacred activity. So actually I did start doing the dance. I did a couple of workshops that were like in 2018 or so. And then in 2019, I decided that the responsible thing would be for me to like fully overtly share my dance. And I started to do that through a small group, you know, online through Zoom. And I never regret that. That actually was one of the best decisions that I ever made. Like I had all these different concerns. They just get my water drink my water too. I was concerned about, you know, my motivations and how it would be perceived by others, and actually had a wonderful group of about 10 people who are still wonderful students of this class that affirmed to me that humanity was ready to receive this, that it was absolutely the right thing for me to do, to be able to share it with people, and that it was uplifting and positive. And I have like a cherished recording of that original, you know, archive of that original dance that I was doing with people at that time. And it was cherished because it was a very, very pure time. I'm happy I did it pre-invasion, which is what the pandemic was. I know, I hope we won't get flagged for any kind of whatever talking about this so overtly, but the pandemic was absolutely an invasion from this stuff. You had like the Cold War, you had the slow creep of that stuff coming in for a very long amount of time. And then the pandemic was the moment of what they call shock and awe, where they're like, it's the blitzkrieg, where they're like full forces, they're gonna come out fighting, kick ass, and try to subdue us as much as they possibly can. And that's actually, in terms of a tactician, me sharing with you here, it's actually positive news because they hit you with everything they had. They hit me with everything they had. They came out with every single effort to distress your natural DNA, effort to subjugate you, effort to distance you from God and from the divine presence, and to stop or subvert or hijack the ongoing ascension process. That was as bad as it gets, all right? And you made it through. You have not been assimilated into the Borg. You guys don't know what that is. It's from Star Trek. Even though I'm not like a huge TV watching person, I have found these allegories to be able to be very effective at communicating what is going on in your present world, and especially the fiction that happened before pre-invasion fiction, because you don't get a lot of stuff right now that is made that is actually anti-AI stuff. You get a lot of pro-AI stuff, including, I'm going far afield here, this ongoing series that's on Netflix called The Three-Body Problem. I actually read the books. The books are worth reading, but I do not ascribe to their worldview or philosophy, but it helped me to learn more about everything, including in interactive nation state dynamics between the USA and China, and how that relates to assimilation, because China opened the door to the stuff and was fully assimilated. And then they fell. And then they were hoping to make us fall too. We didn't fall. This is big stuff, big stuff. And I'm very, very pleased. So yeah, you're not assimilated into the Borg. On what is dangerous about three-body problem, grooming people for accepting malevolent extraterrestrial invaders as if they are saviors. That's the topical theme of that well-done science fiction show. And it's very, very distressing because at one point in the show, this cult of humans that is very, they are exophilic, meaning that they are very open to the extraterrestrials. They're not exophobic. They're like, extraterrestrials, welcome, come save us, and they even call it our Lord, this extraterrestrial thing they haven't met. And the leader of the cult is talking through like a real-time communication device, which happens to be faster than light, which is going to relate to our curriculum for today, whether you can speak in light speed or whether you are able to supersede the limits of light speed to be able to communicate with far distant species. So this, they're using like a technological faster than light communication device. But it's evident if you know the story, the extraterrestrial on the other end of the walkie-talkie is not a good person and is pretending to be all innocent and talking with this guy and is really grooming this human cult leader and then indirectly grooming this whole group of humans to accept them and celebrate their presence, when really what the extraterrestrial is doing is sensing weaknesses, like a psychopath learning about its victim in order to victimize it more effectively. It's a very, very chilling scene, very, very creepy and distressing to watch. Again, I'm far afield because I want to finish the chapter on like why you want to lasagna in Sedona with me. But also, so this goes back to pre-invasion, the waters were a lot clearer, like in terms of when you do the, I should even say when you do the flying lasagna, what are you doing? You are doing, I call it time acrobatics, but you can also consider it to be a self-integration between yourself and time. You kind of selectively reduce the barrier of individuality between yourself and the entire flow of time that you're embedded within. And you not only are actively, those time currents dance through you, but you contribute towards those time currents. And it involves a very respectful leveling up in terms of moving into a higher dimensional state. So this is actually a very good takeaway on the topical theme of extraterrestrial invaders, and that which is really coming from a much, much lower frequency motivational state. You guys are not yet in unity consciousness. And when you're in unity consciousness, you can drop your barriers and not lose your immune system, but you don't have to constantly be skeptical and on guard at all times. You know, when I first came here as Aurora, and I would be talking with people about what my home world is like, because again, I don't come from a planet or a star system, but I do come from like a level of reality. But in that level of reality, like everyone has already passed the audition. You're at a party or a cosmic dance party, literally with the greats. And you don't have to worry about like putting down your purse or your handbag or your backpack or whatever. Like no one's going to steal your stuff. It's very, very different. You know, when you're at some gatherings, you have to keep your wits about you, and you have to be very skeptical. You have to make sure, you know, no one puts anything into your drink, and no one's going to steal your purse, and no one's going to this, and no one's going to that. That's the level of reality you're presently in. All right. You got bandits, banditos, bad people, psychopaths, psychopathic technology, all sorts of bad stuff you really have to protect yourself from. So in short, flying rainbow lasagna is not a total dissolution of all boundaries. You must have excellent boundaries in order to do flying rainbow lasagna, because you don't want stuff to hijack your dance. But when you get to a higher level of reality, a higher dimension of experience, it is a place where it's, again, it's like a sieve or a refinery. Consciousness has been refined in order to be able to even get to that level. And that means certain characteristics have been refined out of the tendency, whatever, group, including psychopathology, including the tendency to steal from others. So you don't have to be afraid about like, oh, I hope no one's going to steal my stuff. I better hold up these boundaries. I can't put down my valuables. No one's going to steal your valuables. That type of a party. It's that type of an experience. It's amazing. I don't even have words to be able to describe it to you. It's so completely different than the world that you are in right now and the lessons that I have to teach you in this world right now. So just know that. It's like, imagine you're working at this particular job right now. Like that just really sucks. And you have a very bad boss, and you're learning all of these coping mechanisms about how to deal with having a job under this person that has a very, very toxic management style. And eventually you will get a better job. That's like this cosmic dance party where I come from. And none of the life lessons that you learned, none of the job skills are transferable, because everything that you learned was like how to deal with the psychopath, how to deal with a liar, how to deal with someone who doesn't have their SHIT together, how to deal with when someone else doesn't do their job, how to deal with unfairness and hypocrisy and favoritism and destabilization of the organization. You know, you're pretty much like, no offense to any of you, I'm laughing and I'm totally loving and hugging you. You're like one big giant ball of coping mechanisms. And even the software programs that you learned for the company computer, it's like the worst system, whatever. It's all Windows. You became an expert at the worst software system, but where you're going, it's like the best software system. You're gonna have to learn all new behavioral patterns, social patterns, emotional patterns, and definitely new life skills. So the good news is you survived your horrible job and your horrible boss here. Bad news is none of these skills are transferable. You've been in a complete aberration the whole time. I'm not laughing in a whatever disheartening sense. We need to laugh because I'm sure you're probably laughing with me. You're like, Aurora, this actually explains a lot. Good. I hope that's the impression that I'm getting from all of you. Solidarity. And again, I am here in solidarity. I think I say that about once per class. Why I'm not floating on an interdimensional cloud, eating strawberry shortcake or some fluffy marshmallow treat or something like that. Like everything is fluffy in the clouds, even your food. No, I'm here. And I'm in this dysfunctional work environment. And I'm like, we need to coil up the electrical cord. We need to do the right stuff. And yes, I'm actually a sanity check, reality check about what this place is like. So just to recap on that, a distinction between what is the correct behavior at a certain level of reality that you are presently in opposed to correct behavior in another level of reality. So here in this level of reality, like your DNA does have to be prepared to fight and to defend itself and even to do a preventative attack. Like if you see something coming at you, to prevent it from even harming you or your loved ones or your community or your planet. and that doesn't exist at the higher dimensions that I exist at, because everything there has already been worked out. You're already in unity consciousness, and you already got rid of all the poops and the doo-doos. But here you've got poops and doo-doos. But this does relate to what I wanted to share in terms of post-eclipse, because the garbage water is a lot clearer. So sometimes when I do my Tuesday FRL dance class with everyone, I tell you, like, look, like, I wish that you were coming of age and swimming around in beautiful, pristine time waters, like beautiful scuba waters with the coral reefs and these colorful fish. And instead you're in like these polluted waters with like dirty Ziploc bags and used tampons and all these gross things that you're swimming through, that it's like a little bit difficult to enjoy yourself and also to learn what the flying rainbow lasagna is, because it's an expansive dance. It's actually not a dance that you do where you're like, okay, don't go to the wrong neighborhood, don't go over there, don't go over there. And this is really exemplary of what the evolution and growth process for your consciousness is. It is expansion. And it's why in freedom, you don't want to be expanding into garbage. And you also don't want to be limited in your expansion, which I jokingly talk about, like pinkies up and daintily, lifting your skirts and like stepping over giant piles of doo-doo and, gross puddles and things like that. Like, you can't just mince around hoping to avoid big, giant, stinky puddles of evil and psychopathology, steaming piles of psychopathology that are all not supposed to be there. So in short, a lot of the work that we do at this level of reality is directly to scrub the toilet, clean up stuff that's not supposed to be here, including tendencies within your own DNA. So flying rainbow lasagna is much, much more than just a cosmic scrub brush. Please envision it as the beautiful paintbrush. Like, I have some paintbrushes that are sable paintbrushes. I would never use them to scrub the toilet. It would ruin them. Got it? Like, I cringe at the thought. But flying rainbow lasagna is an effective tool for you to respond to the genetic pollution that is in humanity right now, that not only has been a neutering or a diminishment of your potential to protect and defend yourself and prevent your world from being invaded, but also is, you've been having to deal with these failed consciousnesses. So this is what the Pooties essentially are: pesky occupiers of the interstices. They're failed consciousnesses that didn't even do their death correctly. Because if you die correctly, you hit the membrane of death, you're dead, figure it out, you get your life review, and you don't stay there for millennia. And you definitely don't stay there for millennia, creating a giant infrastructure to siphon energy off of the living so that you essentially never have to face your life review and consequences of your actions. That's not actually a success. So, hi, great to see you. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah, it's really quite an inversion. You guys are, I think, very familiar at this point with the concept of inversion, the satanic societies and their invertedness. It can drive you insane. So just don't touch on it too much with your mind. But yes, no, to them, they're a huge success. Like, I'm a turd that refused to flush. I'm a huge success. It's like, no, like, you did a terrible, terrible failure, and you're supposed to actually die, and you're supposed to be in entropy. And also the idea of entropy as being non-torturous resolution of energies, as opposed to being tortured endlessly in eternal hellfires, which is Christian dogma, which I actually don't agree with. Even if the satanic poops are like, no, torture us endlessly. Like, we refuse to go to paradise. We refuse to go to paradise. We want torture. Like, at a certain point, you could override that, because they're psychopaths, and that they might choose that. They're like, at least I'm alive. At least, I'm semi-alive and being tortured. Like, again, using humor. This is not a funny thing, because I've had to learn they're that way. Like, I'm so, okay, just briefly about who I am. Like, I'm very innocent because I have come of age in the time of ancient concurrent Atlantis, and I also come from the world that is not full of psychopathology. And then I've been in this level of reality through my flying rainbow lasagna backbend in time. And boy, it's been quite an education, because this place is like full of psychopaths and also psychopathological characteristics, and also impossibilities, things that should never be in existence. And that is some of the real distress that I think you guys feel on a soul level, because you don't have the contextual framework to be able to know that you are in an inverted world with many impossibilities. And you might think that this place is calibrated correctly, but I'm telling you, this place is calibrated completely incorrectly. So now I will use my ongoing analogy. When I was a custom framer, when I was just starting to be, in the world of commerce, I was here in 2005. So I've been here for like 4 years. I'm like a kindergartner, 4 years old. All right. I'm working as a custom framer in a chronological adult body. And one of the things you have to do is cut a mat, these perfectly square and rectangular cardboard openings for highlighting artwork. And the mat cutter was incorrectly calibrated. So not only did I have to learn like how to do this, bizarre, archaic task to be able to, serve human community and earn money, but also the machinery that you used to do it at this particular work location was totally calibrated wrong. It was 1/8 of an inch off in one direction and 3/16 of an inch off in the other direction. So every time I cut a mat, I had to first do the math to be able to do it correctly in a pristine environment. Then I had to add 1/8 of an inch over here and remove 3/16 of an inch over here in order for it to fit correctly on that machine, just on that one machine. That one machine was miscalibrated. Got it? You are in that level of workspace right now where you don't even have a correctly calibrated mat cutting machine. Someone put the stickers on wrong from the beginning. This has not been okay. And you guys have been having to constantly recalibrate just to do this simple task. So again, once I moved to a different workspace, they had machines that actually worked properly, and I didn't have to do that level of compensation. And I can hear you asking this too, like, Aurora, like, why didn't you just fix the stickers? Because the stickers were like sacred. They were like these sacred little things that they had put on. And I would be like, of course, the person that I am now, I would fix it. I would scrape it off with a razor blade. And I'd be like, we're just moving everything into the direction where it's supposed to be. But at that level of my existence with integrating with human society, I was like, oh, like I will respect their miscalibrations and work within them. So, but now I have a different approach, clearly, because I've been here for over 20 years. And so I'm much more exasperated and have much, much less patience at having to deal with the miscalibrations of human society, and even to the point where it is not my cosmic job or role that I play to accommodate miscalibrations. Far from it. I am here in order to move the stickers so that things get correctly calibrated. And that is what Flying Rainbow Lasagna is. And that is what I teach and embody to each one of you. So wrap it up, because it's been just like the longest intro in the world here, but a very important group of things that I wanted to share with you. Learning about Flying Rainbow Lasagna at the retreat, I think, is going to be, well, it's groundbreaking. It's the first time I've ever done an in-person retreat. I think it's going to be an incredibly powerful and impactful activity. Something that not only changes the course of a person's individual life trajectory, not only the group of people that we will have there, but will be a powerful, energetic event radiating outward to all the lives that we touch upon. And I can say that truthfully because there are some places where energy work is very powerful and is magnified. Like if you've ever been to Mount Shasta, that's a place where like literally your thoughts and your feelings when you go onto that mountain structure is like being in front of the cosmic microphone. Everything gets amplified. And I felt that same way when I went to Mount Overlook in Woodstock, New York, except it was a smaller amplifier, but still a big amplifier. These are power spots. And I find Sedona is definitely one of those types of power spots. And so California has a lot of suppression technology, all of the infrastructure, like the millimeter waves and other carrier waves that are being carried on the overhead power lines. It's difficult to do lasagna here. Again, I'm like imagine if you're a marathon runner and you just run every day, if it's rain, if it's shine, if it's snow, if there's blisters on your toes, you just run no matter what. That's me. I just lasagna no matter what. But if you're a beginning runner and you're like, look, it's 40 degrees and I have blisters on my toes, I'm not running today. It's understandable, right? So I chose this location in Sedona to optimize the situation so that beginner lasagna people can get a feeling of what it is like to genuinely take flight in a world that is not strewn with garbage. And I talk about garbage, I mean frequency trash. So California has a lot of frequency trash, and it is kind of like up here, like up above my head, and can make it a little bit difficult to kind of like jump up and out. This is all allegorical language in terms of frequency to connect with the sun and the stars and all of that higher level of consciousness at the cosmic dance party. And so Sedona is much less locked down. I really felt the truth of that when I was out there in October of last year. And I was out there for the previous eclipse. And I also had a lot of time just driving across these vast desert expanses between different cities. And I found that it was very free out there. Like there's it's uninhabited. There's very little 5G. There's very few overhead power lines. And there was a lot less disruptive energetic technology. And so I found like I could get to these very elevated places. It was even easier to run a marathon when you weren't running through like giant puddles or, whatever, like bales of hay in front of you or something like that. No obstacles. Yeah, so I had many, many fewer obstacles. So I expressed a desire. I said, it would be amazing to return to Sedona and do some kind of a workshop here, and made it happen. All right. So this is very, very positive. Rekindling of the embers that were from 2019 before the pandemic threw a lot of cold water on many of our plans for inner development and ascension. So redirection back towards onto ideal timelines, and also an opportunity to be able to really show you with my body presence how I do this flying rainbow lasagna magical activity. And it's more than just something I do for 5 minutes a day. It is really a whole entire way that I live my day. So I'm very excited to be able to share that with the participants, from the getting up in the morning and doing sun gazing and creating some fresh music of the day and doing a warm-up pre-flight and doing lasagna and eating food and the type of food that I eat. Like we'll have a variety, but I want to exemplify like, here's when I eat carbs and then here's when I eat protein. And now we're going to do this, bring a snack because you're going to get hungry. This is how I do my life. And we will have some beautiful hikes. I've just been setting that up and doing some research into the best places to hike. So I will be doing some amazing, I call it walk and talk. If you can tell, I like to walk at comfortable paces and talk with people. So we won't do a grim death march or anything like that. Nothing that requires crampons and climbing gear. We'll do some positive, mellow physical exercise of walking along, because it is easier to learn when you walk and, just kind of move your body. Sitting in class with like your body all constricted and not being allowed to move or wiggle is actually like a form of torture. Cheeky tugs and probably food. So yeah, we will do walking and talking. And Cheeky will be there too. So Cheeky's very, very excited. I've already been giving her lots of pep talks about how much she's going to play with other people and hug and snuggle people and be uplifting. And just briefly, wait, let me give Cheeky a food. Here, we got this for you right here. Here. Food. Go get it. I have to prepare it all for you. Our cats and dogs and animals in our life, like these are essential ascension equipment. These are not just merely accoutrements or inconveniences or, the way that they define pets in your life. Cheeky is essential in my life. And there's reasons for that. Like the rapport of love that I have with her is antithetical to the garbage frequency. You get it? Like everything in our journey right now is about frequency and about cultivating this very, very specific energy field. So the stuff that harms you is Wi-Fi, millimeter wave, telecommunications devices, carrier waves, things that come out of LED lights, like things that are unnatural, unhealthful frequencies, and a lot of stuff that comes out of technology. And stuff that helps us and uplifts us is literally the love rapport that you can build between yourself and your cats, dogs, possibly human lovers, and trees, gardens. And I joke about humans, like there's nothing wrong with you, but there are ego barriers that are very real that can make it difficult to connect with others on the best of times. And presently, you live in a world where many people are assimilated with this stuff, can make it even extra difficult to connect effectively, find friends, and generate that real feeling of love and acceptance and celebration and community. It's all very intentional, not by accident. They didn't put that stuff inside of some people in your world accidentally. You guys know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. not accidentally. And that stuff and that DNA pollution, it affects everyone. So wait, finish up on Sedona, because you can tell I have like too many windows open in my brain. So opportunity for me to be able to energetically exemplify and behaviorally exemplify what flying rainbow lasagna is, do some good walk and talk lectures, we'll eat wonderful food prepared by a private chef. And this chef is this very cool person. He's named Dave, and he owns a chocolate tree and the Giving Tree Cafe in Sedona and Phoenix. And he absolutely comprehends how our food is full of light and is very much a part of our spiritual journey. And is a wonderful person in service to humanity in creating these wonderful, food nourishment, edible artworks. That's who's making our food for us. So the food is highly intentional. It is not vegetarian, but it is made of the best ingredients, and it's part of flying rainbow lasagna. So to lasagna, you need to eat wonderful, good food for your physical body, get sunlight and sun gazing for your light body, and also have an area that is an EMF-free zone to be able to cultivate your energy field. This is why you want to be there. So I'm creating optimum circumstances for being able to do the actual flying rainbow lasagna, and it will be a transformative event experiencing for the individual, for us as a group. Like I definitely intend for us to be able to form lifelong friendships by meeting one another in person, and then also the communities that we touch upon, everybody who's in your lives, and also everyone who's physically in proximity to Sedona, and the whole connection of energy. Because here's a big takeaway from today as I start to segue into my actual curriculum. Your DNA is connected. Your DNA is connected to the continuum of DNA. And this relates to what I was telling you about the continuum of consciousness. When you get out of this garbage-ridden layer of inverted, polluted reality, and you get into higher levels of reality, you're part of a continuum of consciousness, and what you do, what affects one affects everyone. But this is not a total dissolution of individuated boundaries. So it is possibly difficult for the logical mind to comprehend, but it is a maintenance of your own individuality, even when you are submerged within a sea of waveforms. And this is directly in my curriculum from 10 years ago. So wait, Allison's got a question about the Sedona event. Will there be recordings of the event? Unable to attend, bad timing for her, unfortunately. Totally understand, and I'm totally sympathetic to people's, you've got either personal responsibilities or professional responsibilities, how much time people can get off from work, family, and also financial, burdens and things like that. So I'm totally understanding about all of that. I am going to ask Lanley, who is my organizer on this journey, and also a professional photographer and videographer, to do some pictures and video of what we're doing, because I would like to be able to share it with others, people that are in this class and possibly other students, but it is directly dependent upon all participants have to agree to be able to be photoed or videoed. So it is really dependent upon that. So my answer is a conditional yes. I would love to be able to share some of what I'm doing there. I need to get explicit consent from the participants to be able to give a better answer, but I would love to, okay? Thank you for that. And also, this is my first in-person retreat, but it's my intention to be able to keep going with these and do them. Yeah, absolutely. Possibly I will do some in California. And we did a lot of work on the eclipse in terms of cleaning up the garbage. That's actually pretty important stuff. All right, so I know you're already tired. Wait, we just ran like 5 miles and we're already tired. Don't poop out on me. Hydrate, gonna keep going. Hold on. Okay, so what happened over the eclipse? Because we had class last week and this major event. Now we are back again. Let's do a little recap. Okay, clearly the world didn't end. The world did not end. You had a small earthquake in New Jersey, but nothing giant. We had a water main break in my town. And so we didn't have clean drinking water for a little while. But I found that to be very positive. Like, whoa, why do you think that's positive? Because it was the frisson, but not the actual thing. Like, sometimes people make the Japanese fugu. It's a fish that's deadly, but they cut it so that they cut out the deadly poisonous parts, and then you only eat the non-poisonous parts. But the sushi chefs leave a little bit of the poison behind because people want their lips to go numb, because they want the frisson, a little tiny bit of knowing, like, I could have eaten something deadly, but I didn't. Got it? So that little earthquake in New Jersey and the water main break that we had here was the frisson. A little tiny bit of tingling neurotoxin to tell you, you could have been on those very bad timelines, but you weren't. So congratulations to all of us as a collective at steering away from catastrophe and apocalypse centered demolition timelines. We did not experience that. And I did a lot of work with other people, some of it in groups, some of it in individual meditations and flying rainbow lasagnas, dances, in terms of closing down genetic portals to things that should not be active in my body or in anybody's body, so that the failed echoes of formerly alive extraterrestrial societies were not able to effectively reach through your DNA anymore. And this is what I wrote about. I shared it here on YouTube and on my Facebook and on my Patreon. Because when I have these windows of clarity and there's not that much garbage, then I try to do something important and communicative about what I'm seeing and sensing from that viewpoint. So what I was able to sense was that here's what you're dealing with in terms of this stuff invading your body. So first of all of this is about your body, not some distant, laboratory or spaceship flying around in interstellar space. This is about this stuff coming inside of your body and what it's essential to fight against. 3 things in order for you to be free from this infestation in your body and on your planet. The first one is the metallic aspect of it, which is analogous to or concurrent with flat out AI, a machine-based technology that has nothing at all to do with biological or biocellular type of stuff. And then that stuff that is metallic stimulates pain signals in the cells of your body, in conjunction especially with the 5G millimeter wave for telecommunications, in quotes. 5G millimeter wave for techno-inquisitional tortures. And then you can go into Monty Python, like the Spanish Inquisition, and then you are going to get tortured. No. But that is what that stuff does. It tortures humans on a cellular level through these zaps and pokings and rupturings of cell membranes. And when that happens, just like when you get traumatized through torture in a moment, or even through someone yelling at you, there is a moment where you're frozen and it leaves behind a little piece of yourself in the past. And this AI technological aspect has capitalized upon that tendency of the alive consciousness to be fragmented through trauma, and has even created forms of non-natural stasis fields. Because in a natural, pristine world, even if I yelled at you, if you were 5 years old or if you were 35 years old, it still hits hard. And if I yelled at you and called you a bunch of bad names, you would be fragmented, you would be frozen, you'd move on with your day, but eventually you'd recollect that part of you that was frozen at, like, some moment on Tuesday where Aurora is yelling at you, and you would reintegrate and become whole again. But what the AI has done is create this stasis field that is like an artificial frequency fence that keeps those aspects of self frozen in a non-natural perimeter and cannot be resolved and be free. And that is an endless source of emotional distress energy that this thing can then draw upon for the next level of reality, which is its interface between biological and technological realm that we would call the demonic realm, that we would call that the realm of the pesky occupiers of the interstices, some of which were never alive, some of which were alive and now would be considered consciousness residues. And this is my big teaching and sharing for you that's not on the curriculum, but that is very new and relevant and effective for you to know about. So in this world, there are some people who are really celebrating extraterrestrials. We'd call them exophilic instead of exophobic, xenophobic, xenophilic. And they are in celebration of a very particular type of extraterrestrial. And I also have to just reiterate who and what I am. You guys are students of my class. If you've heard me talk about myself quite often, but I will just reiterate that as if you've never heard me talk about this. But I'm a waveform presence. I'm Aurora. I'm a waveform presence. I do not come from a planet that hovers around a star and fostered biological life. I mean, originally I came from Earth, which is the planet that fostered life, that hovers around a star. But most recently, I live as my Aurora collective, which is a non-physical waveform state that is actually outside of space-time consciousness. So it is not like you can find it on a space-time coordinates map or fly a clank metal spaceship in a linear point A to point B flight and fly there. It is not that type of a destination. It is a state of being, and we are defined by, or I am defined by my value system, not my space-time coordinates. And I travel on the stellar network as an impulse, where you have these many multiple different stars, each of which is a doorway or a portal of consciousness, and which are each connected through faster than light communication and star travel as a giant neurology. And you could consider that to be God's brain or the divine consciousness brain architecture. Just like you have neurons in your brain, this highest form of intelligence has stars in its brain. And the light that is shared on the network of stars is non-random, and it represents patterns that are thought forms in exactly the same way that in your own brain, you exhibit neurological patterns that are your thought forms. So I, Aurora, on a highest dimensional level, I'm a thought form that is traveling on the network of stellar consciousness. And that is very, very, I do not use technology to do so. How do experts do star travel? Like, we don't need no stinking clank metal, silly contraptions. No, you do it with your body, with who you are, with your natural state of being. Do not need to have any form of external technology. In fact, from that perspective, the utilization of external technology is a hindrance and an impediment, and albatross around your neck, making you go slower. And I've used the analogy of those guys that have the Tour de France bicycles with the very, very skinny tires, and they're going super duper, 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 duper fast. And like, you can't put tricycle wheels on those bicycles. You're never going to do the Tour de France with the tricycle wheels. And technology is tricycle wheels. Literally, so these are the chakras of your body. Chakras from spinning wheels of energy. It's a Sanskrit word. And these are supposed to be spinning super duper duper fast, like those guys on the skinny bicycles, like Tour de France. And any kind of technology is really going to slow down not only the spinning of your energy centers, but also technology itself is an unnecessary accoutrement that makes it so that you cannot do everything that you really need to be able to do. So it's a trinket. And what technology does is allow certain organisms or species or races to move into higher levels of capacitation beyond their natural levels of development without the concomitant levels of increased wisdom that you must have in order to get to those levels of development. So in this perfectly pristine architecture, where you have stars as neurons in a mind of God, you have very, very specific communications that happen on the star network, and stars birth or give form to planets and the biological species on those planets. And they are meant to evolve to the point where they become an impulse on the stellar network. That is how experts do star travel. I am not a hypocrite. That is how I did it. I did not build a clank metal spaceship in ancient Atlantis and go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, engage, blast off into the stars. That is not what I did. No, I lived for many thousands of years in community in Atlantis. I learned the lessons of being an individual and balancing being an individual versus being in community. I learned about my ego, my individuated value system, and I learned about how I relate to other people's egos and their characteristics and their individual value system. And at a certain point, when I had learned all of the things I needed to learn and accreted all of the light or information that I needed from that particular form of individuated, experience, I went up through the perambulation ascension process, got the retrospective on my life, learned even more as my light flowed back to me from all these relationships that I had been in. And then I became part of the circulating city that hovers and chases the sun, that you never land, you never reconnect to the actual planet with your feet. You are buoyant and in a higher dimensional state, but not yet untethered from the planet. And I lived in that state with others who were individuated, creating this band or conglomerate of beautiful artists and musicians and lovers, but not sexual lovers, but real love connection between these people in community. That is called Aurora, that eventually was able to untether from the planet and enter fully into the stellar network. My group, my collective, what is named Aurora, is just like my body here, a group of many individuated cells, many individuated organs or organizations, Cheeky's coughing over there, put into a larger holistic body presence. And that is eternal life, and that is ascension, and that is not the end of the journey at all, but is getting to these higher levels of direct reality creation. And then also from that perspective, I'm outside of time, but I'm able to see all time, and I am able to see the devastation that was happening in the death of the original occupant of this body in 2001, and why I needed to step in and do something, because if I didn't, everything would go bye-bye. And this is big on the theme that I'm talking to you about today, as it relates to the eclipse, as it relates to other extraterrestrials, personal responsibility, the sense that if you don't do something, everything goes bye-bye. You have to set boundaries. Topical theme, setting of boundaries. Even when you do flying rainbow lasagna, which is opening doorways and opening portals and bringing together formerly divergent realms, not randomly, and maintaining boundaries. That's big, because you can open up a magical portal, but that does not mean this, all crap, come through here. No, it can be a very, very limited doorway. So when you are doing flying rainbow lasagna and you're connecting genetically your own genetic presence to either yourself in the past or in the future, or yourself on parallel lateral timelines, or other organisms that you are learning from and influencing. There's an energy exchange in terms of DNA songs and frequencies that you're experiencing. None of this is a free-for-all. None of this is like, woohoo, all boundaries are done, all bets are off, anybody can come inside of you, you can go inside of anybody. No, not at all. Far from it. That is not what it is. I can't emphasize that enough. It is, the flying rainbow lasagna is a very, very, very selective bridging together of formerly divergent realms. And it is a rectification device, because those realms were actually not supposed to be apart. They were not supposed to be divergent. There are artificial blockades and unfair stuff that happened that made it so that you couldn't connect effectively to God, the divine presence. Let me just mute you. That you couldn't connect effectively to the source. And we have to talk today a lot about what the source is, so that you couldn't express the divine perfections that you are supposed to express in this body. And the flying rainbow lasagna is a tool for you to be able to use to fix all of that stuff. Something unfair happened, and the unfairness could only happen because cosmic law was incomplete. And cosmic law is the other thing that is the hallmark or value system of what my Aurora collective and this highest dimensional level of consciousness, activity is all about. And in cosmic law, you are sustaining reality. It's a series of laws, kind of like the laws of physics, that are not in conflict with one another, and that they help to sustain reality. And that reality would have been destroyed, because if you only enforce cosmic law a certain amount, then you have to do the order of operations. I'm speaking in shorthand, so now I have to slow it down and speak. I have to show you the math, literally. Do you guys remember, maybe in 3rd grade or 6th grade or something like that, when you learned this little thing in arithmetic? Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. This is called the order of operations. So sometimes you are given a complex math equation. And there are some phrases in parentheses, and then there are, additions and subtractions and multiplications. And if you don't do them in the right order, everybody ends up with a different answer. So math has become standardized so that anybody in any country knows how to read it, interpret it correctly, and come out with the right answer. And it means you have to follow the correct order of operations. First, you do the parentheses. That's what the please is. The excuse, that's exponents. My dear, that's multiplication, then division. Aunt Sally, addition, subtraction. When you do things in the right order, you end up with the correct answer. Cosmic law must similarly be enforced in the correct order. And that, because with cosmic law, you have all these different things. Like you have the I am presence. Like, hey, I exist. This is my red chakra talking. I exist and I'm allowed to be here. It's like, yes, you exist and you're allowed to be here. And that's the primary foundation of being in existence. But then you have all of these other laws that stack up on top of it that mean that you're not just allowed to be like, hey, I exist. I do whatever I want. Hey, I exist and I do whatever I want, but seen through the filter of limitations of all of these other things stacked up on top. Including at the very, very top of there would be flying rainbow lasagna, stacked up on top of all of those other layers of foundation, the flying rainbow lasagna, because cosmic law was not worthy of just like being completely dissolved or a complete demolition and thrown out the window. Cosmic law is an amazing genius, like God is a genius, brilliant way of organizing reality and keeping it organized and keeping it as a viable place that can be inhabited by life, but it was incomplete. And that is how you can comprehend a lot of the unfair things that have been happening in your world, including the invention of death. There's a lot of injustices and also things that were, you're supposed to receive what you send out, but there have been delays. And if you're a very, very evil person, you're like, I send out evil and then I don't receive it back for 13 billion years. Like that delay means you can live very, very well for 13 billion years, which is an incredibly long amount of time. Hey, Lucy, good to see you. Yeah. And that you should not be allowed to live for even 1 second. Like if you do a bunch of super duper evil stuff, you should not be living well. You should receive back the just rewards, the consequences of what you have sent out. So time delay is what has made it possible for you in your present incarnation as a human to experience an enormous amount of inversion and injustice. You guys know it as this. Like that ain't fair, basically. Why do bad things happen to good people? And why do bad people seem to be able to skate by, not only avoiding consequences, but even being elevated into some pretty comfortable positions in life, and their life trajectories and soul trajectories seem to be favored. Why is this happening? And the answer is because the system has been very, very screwed up for a long amount of time. But the system is not worthy, again, of being just completely thrown out the window. What you needed was an amendment to cosmic laws. Like, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, but if blah, blah, blah is going on, this is what you need to do. That is what flying rainbow lasagna is. And flying rainbow lasagna does not come into conflict with any of the other previously established, very effective foundations of cosmic law. But it is the next thing that you have to add on top of all of those layers of reality and key point causality, cause and effect, in order to maintain reality. So time is a big part of this. You're right now fish that are submerged in a river and you are swimming in time and you experience linear time, and linear time has causality. And that means first you make the batter, then you put the cake in the oven and it cooks, and then it comes out the other side and you have your cake with your cupcakes. It's the order of operations. But you cannot just jump directly to cupcakes, and you cannot have cupcakes, then batter, then oven. Like that doesn't make sense, because in order to have the cupcakes, you had to have the oven to cook the batter. So you're starting to comprehend that in terms of like events happening in reality, and even the development of biological life. Like to develop biological life, you need certain elements. That means that certain physical events had to happen in order for those elements to even be created in the death process or evolution process of a physical star. So for you to be alive, some star had to die and spew out all of these atomic molecules, and now they're a part of your body, causality structure. And same thing with how your soul evolves and how you relate to life on other planets. Before I go any further, let me read the comments because I don't want them to become irrelevant while I'm just like gyrating wildly here on all of my conversational threads. Charlie B, thank you for being here and thank you for your insight. Says, without the flying rainbow lasagna, the incomplete cosmic law would be a suicide pact. Oh my goodness, as we all suffer the marauding AI. Absolutely. This is like the most cogent analysis here. Thank you so much for what you wrote. Absolutely correct. That is what, that eventuality is what I could perceive in the need for me to be able to generate the flying rainbow lasagna as a solution and come here as a walk-in 22 or so years ago, almost 23 years ago, and not only create it and embody it myself, but to go through great efforts to communicate it to all of you. Because it, you know, like when you create something like the flying rainbow lasagna, it is a new thought in the world. And it means that it is immediately available to you as thinkers and basically anybody else, anywhere else. And you would have eventually developed it, perceived it, written, you know, long treatises about it, done all sorts of things. I wouldn't have been here telling you about it. Humanity would have discovered it in much the same way that you discovered many other profound truths about the cosmos. But that could have taken you hundreds, thousands, millions of years. And also while you're in that point of development, super duper vulnerable to the AI that you presently fight, that is presently imperiling not just you, but the entire fabric of space-time. Because, so I needed to come in and not just save this body of this one individual person's life, I needed to come in and plant this seed of a consciousness concept in your human collective so that you could all begin to change and grow and evolve in a new direction in preparation for this moment now where you're so imperiled by AI. It wouldn't have been enough for me to just like be here, have a regular job, keep my mouth closed, keep my head down, and not talk about this. I had to come out and I had to be out of the closet, quote unquote, from the first moment I was here, which I was. Again, come to my Sedona retreat. I'll tell you all my funny fish out of water stories about being so far out of the closet, you know, being up flying rainbow lasagna when I first came here with like no social skills and no effective communications of how to talk to people about this. But yeah, so also basically to contextualize this for you, many walk-ins are here right now, but everybody's got their own particular mission and everybody has their own particular flavor of capacitation and what they're here to share. And some people keep it really quiet on the down low. Like this one guy that I know, his dad was in a car accident. It was many years ago. He came back. He's not the same guy that he was before the car accident. He doesn't shout it from the rooftops. He just does a lot of work, like helping people and healing people and stuff, because that is his journey as a walk-in. And my journey is very different. There's not better or worse. There's just what is your particular mission. And everybody knows on a deep internal level what you need to be doing. So I knew from the very beginning that I needed to be like very overt and tell everybody all about it. And again, so many funny stories about when I was telling people about it and the reactions to me and various difficulties of communication. Let's just put it that way. Yes, and I enjoy thinking about those things from a humorous viewpoint. Aurora's clips reel, Aurora's comedy show, all the stuff I've done wrong. But then did eventually learn and grow and know how to do it better. Okay, so you have to have the correct order of operations in enforcing cosmic law. And it was necessary for me to not only generate something new and embody something new, but for me to overtly articulate what that new thing is and how to use it and how to apply it and get you up to speed as fast as possible. So that way you could be genetically prepared for what is presently going on. So just to wrap up now, my conversation thread about the eclipse that we just went through, it is actually still ongoing in the sense of the potentials for rectification that happened from that event. But what has been happening has been in inappropriate dissolution of boundaries between technology and humanity. This is known in your society as transhumanism, and it is also that moment of coming together and melding is called the singularity. This word, to me, means something wildly different. So same phoneme, but different meaning, because in my teachings, the singularity is this point right here, that this is a map of your life experiences and possible timelines and probabilities, and that this is the convergence point that is the 0th dimension and the origins of all consciousness, and that you emanate from there as a timeline and a spark of consciousness, and you come into physicality being, and then you become less dense, more ephemeral, and you get the return journey to go back to the source. So that's actually my real curriculum for today. If you go back into my lesson from 10 years ago, it's called the Rainbow Journey. Why am I obsessed with the rainbow? Why is everything rainbow, rainbow, rainbow? That's why I joke when I say out of the closet, like, this is actually not about being homosexual, although I can joke and be like, not that there's anything wrong with that. That is a joke from Seinfeld. So I just don't want that to be interpreted in the wrong way. That's what they always said. But no, I'm a supporter and an ally, people to be able to make their own choices and live their life honestly, but that none of my rainbow stuff is about the LGBTQ community. No, this rainbow is all about a profound expression and an allegory of what levels and layers of consciousness are as it relates to optical light. So I use optical light as an allegory for consciousness. And initially, you are the pure light of unified consciousness, which is what you are when you come from the source. And the source is also your destination, and your journey is eternal. Your light is the white light of all layers of awareness, adding up together into the recipe of you. This absolutely relates to the pure light that emanates from your sun, which is the star in the sky that gave birth to and supports biological life on this planet. It's actually a yellowish green light, but we in this world calibrate to that being a pure white. Like my shirt, has some areas of pure white on it. We look at it and our eyes in this world say that is white, and that is the truthful foundation that we start from, even though you recognize that every sun has its own particular recipe of light that it emits. Some of them have a bluer light or a redder light. So again, we're in a yellow-green star system, but we look at the light that comes from our star as the purity and primary ray of consciousness. And it contains all of the other constituent elements or layers of reality. I know the lighting in here is not that good because it's so bright there, it's washing out everything here. But if you can see the colors on my screen, these all represent layers of reality, very, very briefly. Red is your physicality layer, and it is also your I am presence. And that means when you get a physical body, you're like, I'm here, I'm allowed to exist. That's the lesson of the red chakra and being here. You also, that is your physicality structure, your somatic cellular presence. My face, I'm touching my face. I exist, and you guys exist too. It is incontrovertible. Then these other layers of being are non-physical. They are ephemeral. And so science that is based in physicality, which is called physics, that was largely developed by Sir Isaac Newton in the 1600s. This is, again, curriculum from 10 years ago, but still apt. And this guy, Isaac Newton, was really helping humanity to level up out of a very amorphous and superstition-filled viewpoint, worldview, that was very negative. That was largely an outgrowth of the Spanish Inquisition, again, poking you with the soft pillows. That was not a positive social construct at all, because there was no such thing as evidence of the 5 senses. So people had emotional feelings about someone else, accused them of doing wrong, and then those people were tortured and burned to death often with no evidence. So Isaac came along and was like, let's do evidence. And actually Isaac Newton did some of the earliest experiments with prisms or prismatic crystals, which refract light from the primary ray of consciousness, which is white light, into the rainbow emanation of separated light waves. And so I'll draw it for you. One of the best experiments he ever did was using a triangular prismatic, refractor. Wait, let's draw it. Oh, this might be hard because I have the new whiteboard. First, I complained about the whiteboard. Now I'm intimidated by the new whiteboard. Hold on, guys. Let me see. Wait, this, I want first this. I want to get first of this. Okay, so first let's draw. This is a prism. This is the Pink Floyd album cover. It is also the Pink Floyd album cover for Dark Side of the Moon. Let's make this a beam of white light that is coming into the prism in this direction, right? And then I'm not going to draw with every single colors of the rainbow, but what this does is it slows down the light as it begins to hit the glass. And then you have the red layer that comes out over here. And of course, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. So I'm just going to jump directly to violet. And then you have violet over here that kind of comes out in this direction, and the entire rainbow in between. And so he did this experiment where he's like, wow, like I put white light in and rainbow light comes out the other side. That is amazing. And then the other thing he did was put a complementary prismatic structure over here so that the light that was fragmented went into this triangular glass, and where it emerged, I have to draw in a very special way here, it emerged in white light unity. So all of these, let's just grab a color here. Get it. All of these light waves that had been individuated into various different colors got refocused back together on the journey going through this prism crystal over here and emerged as white light. So to synopsize, white light refracted into its colorful rainbow recipe, and then those individual ingredients becoming unified again through the second complementary journey back into white light. This is you. This is what you are doing. You are God. That is unity consciousness. And you came into the physical presence here, and you have been refracted into the different layers of your being, from physicality through your emotions, your intellect, your heart, communication, insight, and the higher faculties, and your divine connection. And then through your evolutionary process, which is what this crystal is, you are becoming reintegrated. And you are becoming reintegrated into the white light, which is your divine presence as God. And press this down. Good. So when I am using the rainbow as a symbol and a map of consciousness, a symbol, a colorful symbol of what consciousness is doing, and also a map of what consciousness is doing, I'm really representing some deep truth about your evolutionary journey as a soul or as an awareness. So you have come from unity consciousness. That's the cool cosmic dance party where you can put down your purse and you're not going to worry about someone else stealing stuff or, you know, whatever, violating you in some way. Everybody is incredibly respectful. You know why? Because everybody has learned and mastered the lesson that everything is me. And everybody treats themselves in a good way. When I say, when they've mastered the lesson that everything is me, many of your minds went to this. Lots of people in this world are self-destructive. I know. It's a very screwed up, inverted world. And in this world, even when people recognize that something is themselves or is directly connected to themselves, sometimes they are still destructive towards it because they are self-destructive. That's the real problem here. And the self-destruction happens because you are not in your pristine human embodiment state, that some people have hijackers and stuff that's not supposed to be in them that is hateful towards them. In fact, anytime, this is just a little helpful hint throughout your day. If you're walking past whatever storefronts or mirrors or cars or whatever, you kind of like glance over, you get a glimpse of yourself. And if the first impression is like super distorted and it's like, you're so fat, you're so ugly, butt is so huge, whatever is the inappropriate thing that comes up in your own mind about yourself, it's not you. It's not you. When you are in your pristine self and you walk past the, store windows or whatever, and you look at yourself, you're like, I look amazing. I'm the best. I feel fantastic about myself. All of those self-hatreds and self-destructions do not emanate from you. They emanate from genetic invaders and splicings that happened a very long time ago. And those things hate you because they are dead and they don't have a body anymore. And they want your body. but for some reason, they want your body and they love and they covet your body, but they also hate your body. They're like, I love you, I want your body, but your ass is huge. Your skin is so greasy, but I want your body. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And it's insanity, because here's what happens. When you lose your connection to your planet, you become insane. The planet is your body. And this is also big teaching about everybody in their ascension process. And I'm largely critical of the New Age world, because some people want to get away from their body. They want to disassociate from their body, and they want to feel like they're going to be free when they don't have their body. And NASA spacecraft people are doing the same thing with your planet. They're like, I don't like this planet. I want to disassociate from this planet. I want to get in a clank-like metal spaceship. I want to fly to Mars. If you do that, you go insane. You have to have a body. And I have a body in ancient Atlantis, and I have a tether or a connection to this planet. And even as I have been an impulse on the stellar network, I never lost my connection to this planet, and I never lost my caring to this planet. So this is very, very different than a lot of your science fiction. You've got science fiction stories like Battlestar Galactica. That's a recent one that I was watching on TV. And they lost their original home planet. And then they're flying on a big giant metallic space ark, clank metal spaceship, and they're looking for their new home. That's their new planet. That you can't do that. You cannot do that. Here's the analogy, because once you learn microcosm and macrocosm, then you learn how inappropriate that is on a galactic level. So on a smaller scale level, like if you died and you lost your body, is it appropriate for you to just commandeer someone else's body? You'd be like, no, Aurora, that makes you a horrible monster. We would call that demonic possession, or some very, very, very inappropriate thing. There have been some wildly funny comedic movies about it. Like one of them was, what's the one with Steve Martin and Lily Tomlin? I think it's called All of Me. That's when she's a dead heiress and she lost her body and she's inside of Steve Martin's body. Too great comedy. It's not right. It's actually evil. And there's some other, funny ghost type movies where the ghost is dead, body is dead, it doesn't have a home world, and it's looking for a body to inhabit. Sometimes it's comedic and sometimes it's tragic. You should never do that, in case it hasn't, in case I just muddied the waters with wild comedies from Steve Martin. You're never supposed to do that. Look, if I didn't have my body that I'm in right now, it would be totally inappropriate for me to go to any of you guys and be like, knock, 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 I don't have a body. Mind if I just come inside and take over your body? And then I'm going to eat what I want to eat. And I'm going to do what I want to do. We're going to spend all day doing Aurora lasagna things through your body. You should say, no, Aurora, that is entirely wrong and entirely inappropriate. Get the F out. Because you know why? If you died, you died. And that is your effing problem. And this is my body, and I'm supposed to be here, and I'm supposed to be alive. Got it? And it would be especially erroneous of me if I wanted to jump into your body, if I did something self-destructive. Like, what if I didn't eat the right things, do the right things in my body, and then I died of a disease? And they said, oh, poor me, I died of a disease. Can I go and take your body? No. Because you know why? You didn't do the right things, and that's why you died. How about if I jumped in front of a truck? Would that be okay if I then destroyed my own body and then wanted to jump into your body? You'd be like, no, that's totally not okay, because you jumped in front of an effing truck and you shouldn't have done that with your body, and you definitely can't have my body. Well, guess what? That is what the Pooties did. They jumped in front of an effing truck. They destroyed themselves with artificial Merkaba time twisting technology. And they did it in a way that totally effed their connection to their planet and to physicality structure. And they don't have a place to be. And they're like, I think I'll come inside of your body. And they did that a long time ago on this planet. And it wasn't possible to exert effective boundaries against them. And that's why those naughty, disgusting things live inside of humans and hate what they consider to be your giant, ugly, fat ass, which is not giant or ugly, does its purpose. Love your ass. But anyway, I know I try to be a little bit comedic. We're Aurora's Lighthearted Comedy Hour and talking about these things that are very, very distressing. So back to science fiction. Their planets all got kablooey. So in your own solar system, you have a planet that went kablooey. It's currently a pile of rubble between Mars and Jupiter. Nobody can live there. And the things that used to live there, they had a big giant struggle with AI and with technology. And that's why their planet went kablooey. And they should go into an entropy state. First, they should have their life review, find out all the things that they did wrong. Then they should find out that their debts are so great that they literally cannot get back to the source. Like, they don't have enough gas in their car, enough petrol. at the gas station to be able to get back here. So their only option is go into entropy, which is a non-being state. Because when you go back to the source, you are able to start the generation again and start it from the beginning again. So a lot of them are like this. I did the wrong thing in my life. Like, imagine this is me talking about a personal life. I ate the wrong thing. I smoked the wrong thing. I drank the wrong thing, destroyed my body, jumped in front of a truck. Can I jump into your body? No, did I do the wrong thing? Okay, then just give me another chance. It's like, no, you can't have another chance. Why not? Because you effed it up so bad the first time. You don't have enough like quarters in the video game. You don't have enough money to be able to give you another video game. Like, you destroyed the video game, you destroyed the arcade, you destroyed the entire city block that held the arcade. Like, you can't have another play on the video game. That's how bad you effed up, okay? That is how bad these guys effed up on Tiamat, but they went to Mars. And then those guys effed up again on Mars, and they came to this planet here. So this is a long and concerted history of avoidance of responsibility. Again, cosmic law. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Repercussions should be instant. You blow up your planet because you use technology really, really poorly. You should not then bounce around to another planet, to another genetic code, to another place where you can make the same mistakes again and on a different magnitude, and then do it again and do it again and do it again. That's a nightmare. That's terrible, because no real learning or education happened and more destruction happens. So those are all total subversions of cosmic law that will not happen going forward now, because now there's a much augmented and improved order of operations. But this is relevant to what you're experiencing right now, because this stuff I told you about has three components: the metallic, the emotional imprisonment, and then I didn't get to the DNA amalgamation. And it's like a type of biofilm. Humans have thought that it is merely made out of like parasites, you know, like a worm crossed with a virus, crossed with a deadly bacteria, and then that kind of goes inside of a person. It is an amalgamation of parasites, but some of these parasites are from the civilizations that have already been conquered and assimilated into the AI hive mind. So these are what I call the name brand aliens. And they are name brand because they have been preparing and grooming humanity for a very long amount of time, splicing themselves into your DNA, diminishing and degrading the exalted human presence, making a Stockholm syndrome alliance where they are your captor and they are your prison guard, and you are somehow loving and adoring of them because of these diminishments that they've placed into the DNA reverberation, and even having an inner identity affiliation with them. How many people do you know, especially in the New Age world, who identify themselves as a star seed, maybe a Pleiadian star seed, maybe an Arcturian star seed? So you need to know that basically the entire UFO conference culture is grooming and is very not pleasant. And when you watch that three-body problem and you watch that part when the unpleasant alien is talking on the walkie-talkie to the guy that they're going to end up effing over, spoiler alert, later in several episodes forward, that guy's going to get minced into mincemeat because this guy abandons him over here, and they're also going to try to invade your effing planet and take everything that you hold dear and pee and poop all over it. That is what has happened to you in terms of your grooming. You could go into a UFO conference and the very worst, most evil parasite-like characteristics are telling you about what an elevated society they are and how much you should worship them or be in alliance with them, or be in admiration is the best word, be in admiration of them and invite them into your world to somehow uplift your society. I hope you are sensing my supreme sarcasm here, because you guys, not all of you in my class, because you are beautiful people and you have excellent discernment skills, but some of the generalized you that I'm calling out here, they want med beds that are made by Arcturians or Syrians or whatever. All of the poor humans who are riddled with cancer are going to get into their med beds and feel a lot better. Cancer literally comes from these guys. Do you get it? Cancer as genetic invader. Cancer as a group of space occupants a civilization that was in the Crab Nebula, which has nothing at all to do with the Crab Cancer affiliation in your astronomy. So throw that out the window. But Crab Nebulans that live in an area where their star went supernova, kapow, a sudden expansion that incinerated everything. And instead of dying the way they're supposed to, which means you release your physical form and face your life review. Like their whole entire species should have gone extinct in that moment. Instead, they used this satanic technology to remain in a limbo, indeterminate state, and then to, from that PowerPoint position, from that vantage point of being empowered over others, to abuse power and to create a genetic disease that they can use to get energy off of the living to sustain them. And it's totally inappropriate. And a lot of you, when I tell you about this, not you in this class, but humans, when I tell them about this, they're like, well, but we eat plants and animals. What's wrong with that? It's totally different. It is totally different. And also, you're not supposed to have to eat plants and animals. And the only reason why you eat the piano instead of eating the piano's music is because these bad aliens degraded you. And they took you away from being a light eater. And they turned you into slaves who will work for food. That's what the homeless guys hold up that sign on the highway. Will work for food. That's humanity. From your exalted divine origins to being like a homeless species that will work for food. And that I talk about, you know, the Carlos Castaneda active side of infinity quotes from the amalgamation teacher, Don Juan, who talks about humans being raised as food for the predator mind, and humans in chicken coops, humans in human coops, the way that humans are in chickens are in chicken coops. That relates directly to what has happened. So if you're a society, if you're a society and your star goes supernova and you and everyone you know on your planet gets incinerated, what is supposed to happen is you're supposed to face that clipboard filled with red X's about all the things that you did wrong, and then do it again better. Except if you're extinct, the video game arcade is bye-bye. You can't do it again better because there's no place to do it again. Got it? So those souls or consciousnesses should circulate, you know, go where they're supposed to go. They should resolve. And if there is no resolution for them to learn and grow or go into a new, you know, schoolhouse for learning, they should go to entropy. They should definitely not sustain themselves by siphoning energy off of the living, which is what they have done. And they're not the only ones that have done that. So my huge caution is that humanity has been groomed. The grooming has been very intentional, not only through science fiction books and movies, but also through the entire community that is known as UFO conferences, which are a well-crafted psyop, psychological operation made by and promoted by human sympathizers who are analogous to the cult leader in the three-body problem. They are opening the door to invasion on this planet because they have an inner reverberation with these evil things that it feels like home, because they themselves are identifying with their own psychopathological hijackers that are inside of them. They're like, I feel these psychopath feelings inside of me, and you're a psychopath. Clearly, we're the same. Come on in. I'm being facetious. I hope you are laughing because it's disgusting. Yes. And these psychopaths that open the door to the invasion, they're the guys who run your government, run your intelligence agencies, determine religious dogma at the highest levels, are technocrats owning and controlling billions of dollars, your greatest technological corporations, and are hugely active in disempowering humanity, power abusing their fellow humans, and opening the door to these psychopathic invaders who, in all truth, have no agenda to help humanity. Okay, I have to get back to this. When your planet dies, you're supposed to die. If you get on a giant metal space ark, which you should never do, because if you need a metal space thing to be your ark, you should not get off of your planet that's about to die. You should face the music. You should be like this. Giant incoming wave of energy is incinerating me. I take this energy and deal with the consequences. This whole it's a human trope too. Like, maybe Jeff Bezos is going to build a giant rocket and he's going to not get hit by the solar flare, and all the rich guys are all going to fly off to Mars, right? And then Earth will be incinerated and dead, but the breakaway civilization will stay alive. This is Battlestar Galactica. This is all of these different things. If you do that, you go literally effing insane, because you have to have that connection to your planet, which is your body. If you get into a metal space arc and the planet dies and gets incinerated, then it's like having no physical body, and you are like a ghost, and you don't have a place to live, and you don't have a place to be. You also become kind of like a criminal on the run in terms of cosmic infrastructure and cosmic law enforcement. You become a person who is evading their life review and their red clipboard. That makes you a criminal. Like, you're supposed to face the music and not run from it. And getting on your space arc to try to stay alive, and then very, very erroneously going around to take resources from others, is an insane thing. And a person becomes, a species, organism becomes more grotesquely distorted the more that they do that. So you get onto your space arc, planet blows up, you're flying away, and as years go by, the inhabitants of the space arc become more evil, more destructive, more pathogenic, less caring about anything. All that they care about is sustaining their own like disgusting half existence. They'll do anything to be able to get their, life support systems, or their food, or their water, or whatever are the resources that they need, including they have no problem with invading another body. So this is exactly what would happen if I lost my body and I was walking around like a hungry ghost, and I tried to get inside of your bodies. And, if I would do anything to be able to do that. Of course, it's totally against my characteristics and who I am as a person. You couldn't even imagine me doing that. Clearly, I'm very, very different. I have to now talk about in positives about what we should be doing. Hold on, let me drink. Hold on. Okay. How experts do star travel. Let me just drink more. It's very warm in my room. It's like 81 degrees here already. Experts do star travel not with technological devices, not in a clank metal spaceship. We do star travel by going through the singularity that is at the center of each star. I, Aurora, as a giant waveform impulse, go through the singularity that is not only in this star of the solar system, but is a connection in singularity structure to all of these other stars. I have to hop off camera for a minute because I have to grab this. I have to talk to my lovely assistant. Pretend I have like a magician's assistant. My lovely assistant who will get my magical rainbow scarf for me. So now we have to talk about the singularity. The singularity is a convergence point of the stretchy fabric of space-time consciousness into a place where everything stretches together. So you've already remember my analogies of this being like the fabric of space-time, and a very, very heavy bowling ball object goes on the top of it, and it stretches it out the bottom, stretching out the bottom, right? Like stretching it. And that's a black hole. When you have the death of a star, or evolutionary phase of a star, and then that star no longer is in this phase that we would call alive, and all of that energy crushes inward and causes an infinite stretching of that fabric of space-time reality, that is a black hole. Hold on a second. She's barking. I'm going to bribe her. When a star evolves from the phase that we would call alive, when it is emanating timelines and sending energy out, it then crushes inward into itself and doesn't die, but we would say it goes into its next level of evolution, which is the inward journey. And that is where it's called a black hole, because light does not escape from it. All energy goes into it. And the black hole doesn't just end, it goes on an infinite journey. So it's like a stretching, and then that super stretched area is able to connect with other places. I've already diluted what I'm trying to say. All right, start again. Singularity is single by its nature. We call it the singularity or singularity. because if you have more than one, you have a duality or a multiplicity. Singularity is infinity. The reason why you only have one of them is because you just have infinity. And it is the place where all roads lead to. It is the infinite place where all time roads converge at infinity. Your personal life and your ascension timeline and time path converges at infinity. You have come from infinity. You're in the physicality state of being an individuated rainbow person, and you are presently on your journey of realigning and incorporating all of your individual refracted parts into unity consciousness, which places you at infinity. And when you are at infinity, you are at light speed and beyond. You are actually moving faster than light speed. And the singularity, that is that infinity point, resides within various different space-time locations. Multiple different locations or doorways all go to the same place. This place that is like a higher dimensional place is the best way I can say it. So I have singularity inside of me. I have it not only at the center of each one of my chakras or energy systems, I have it at the center of every single one of my somatic cells. It exists in the nuclei, in the behavior and formation of my DNA, which is your DNA is your connection to infinity and God. So in my physical body, when I draw these pictures, and I'll share a picture with you super fast, I show the connection to infinity as being here. Wait, let me just make this go like this, for privacy's sake. This is what I want. Good. Connection to infinity being up here at the top of your head, but that's just a shorthand. And the truth is you have that connection all throughout your body. So not just up here, your crown and your connection to divine consciousness and to the source, which is also the destination, which is infinity, but every single nuclei in all of your cells. And DNA is a sacred tool for connecting to infinity. And that is why things that are subcutaneous pollutions that destroy or distort or inhibit the behavior of your DNA are an affront to God. They're an affront to infinity. They are an assault on the singularity. They are an assault on this higher dimensional level of infinity. So singularity is single by its nature. There's only one of it. But there are many, many, many doorways or openings to be able to connect to the singularity. And some of those doorways exist inside of you, and some of them exist in what appear to be far distant places or organisms. So now if we take this stretchy magical fabric again, and if I make, here's one singularity, right? Like I've stretched the fabric of reality and I've made one stretching point. But what if I do it again? If I stretch another place, and then this is another stretched place, but they all converge in the same place. And then I'm going to stretch it again. You're going to end up with like this big, giant, ruffled fabric-like texture. That is what reality is shaped like from the highest dimensional view. This is the singularity, but you have all of these vortexes that are every single cell of your body, every single star, all come together and converge on the singularity. That is this one single place that is actually outside of space-time. That's why it's not a place, but it is a location, but it's not really a location, so I don't have the words for it. But that critical understanding is what allows you to do the flying rainbow lasagna. Because when you do the flying rainbow lasagna, what you are doing is jumping the singularity that is inside of you to connect with the singularity that might be inside of another person or another version of you or the sun itself. And when you do that and create this very, very fast oscillation of the singularity between you and something else, what you are able to do is do exactly what I spoke about in class last week, the analogy of the little ant that is going across the surface of time, and it learns about being more than flat and two-dimensional. It learns you can either jump off the 2D surface or bend and fold it into a higher dimensional state. That bending and folding action is exactly what I just showed you with the scarf, and that makes it possible for the singularity that is in you to connect directly to the singularity in the sun. This is how experts do star travel. When you go through the singularity, you die. Just going to let that sink in. It's not the same as hidden membrane of death. It's a different type of journey. It is a journey of total immersion in waveform energy, even as you are a waveform yourself. The part of you that dies is all that is temporal or non-eternal. So if I were to draw this for you, I'm going to draw you as a waveform presence being submerged in waveform. We'll use this drawing as an example. Okay, so this is you as a waveform presence. And I've got yellow over here. So let's make big yellow waves. Here are these yellow waves, and they connect with your chakras, and then they extend beyond your chakras, and they keep even going further and further and further. And this is your personal boundary, and that shows the part of you that is defined as you, but you actually exist within a giant ocean of consciousness that has many, many, many waveforms. And not all of them are within the boundary of you, but when you are in divine harmonic proportions, you are able to maintain your own personal boundaries, which would be roughly like these parentheses here, even within the larger waveform. So entering into the singularity and going through the portal that is in the sun means that anything that is not in perfect alignment with these waveforms that are the perfect music of the cosmos gets incinerated or burned away or unmade. These are temporal aspects of self. They are not eternal. You can also call them baggage or unresolved aspects or unhealed traumas, but basically it is not something that you're taking with you on the eternal journey. So now we must talk about what you identify with. And identify means you claim as self, not because you have this current cultural weird thing about people identifying, like people identify as like a wrench, a cat, a this, a that. People identify as weird things. I'm being very facetious right now. But what you identify with is what you claim as self. This is why flawed New Age shadow work is so dangerous, because it makes people identify with garbage, because you are not yet in the world of unity consciousness, and you have aspects that are debris in your energy field. And if you identify with them as self, you are essentially claiming them as something that is supposed to be there. But if you went through the solar portal with that junkola would be burned away, and it would not come out the other side. So this is big. If you identify with the stuff that is junkola and is going to be burned away and not come out the other side, then that means that a little piece of you is getting burned away. But when you identify completely with only the aspects of you that are eternal aspects of self, you have nothing to fear about going through a portal like the solar portal. You're not going to die because you identify with your eternal self. I've been through the solar portal a lot. I am not afraid. I'm talking about Aurora, and I'm talking about Aurora. On all of my different levels, I'm not afraid to go through the solar portal, because any baggage that you have cannot make it through. You come through the other side as your true self, but you don't bring any of the stuff that is not your true self. And not only did I go through portals as Aurora, do it every day, all day long. And what that ends up being is you never pick up and identify with these gross distortions as if they are self. It's a totally different level of existence. But if you haven't been through the solar portal yet, and you've got carrying all these baggages of either like unresolved emotional problems or outright psychopathological implants in your DNA and stuff that's not the real you. And if you're identifying with it as if it is you, and you go through the solar portal, you can be like, wait, don't incinerate my baggage. That's me, that's my socks and my underwear, my toothbrush, I need all that stuff. And the truth is, you don't need any of that stuff. Not only is it not the real you, but you don't need any of that stuff. And it is non-transferable, and it does not nourish and sustain you on your journey. So that's what I'm talking about. When you level up and you get out of working for the psychopathic boss in like the worst calibrated frame shop in the world. My boss actually at that job is not psychopathic, but your boss in this world is psychopathic. You know, my boss at that job is just like severely stressed out and not good at managing and organizing things, because he himself was like very, distressed about what was happening in his life. But in this world, you live in a psychopathic, organization, and you've learned to miscalibrate and become grossly distorted yourself. In response to that, none of those distortions of your real self. So you have non-transferable life skills that you've accumulated through dealing with psychopathology here. When you go through the solar portal, you end up on the other side in a world that is cleansed with all the other people who are also cleansed, and they don't carry that stuff with them, and they have only identified with their truest eternal self, which was actually able to make it through that solar portal. So those guys on the Crab Nebula, they should have gone through the solar portal. They should have allowed it to happen. They should be like, incinerate my effing baggage and find out who I truly am. That is what a courageous, truthful soul does. And they didn't do that. And the guys that got onto their different various space arcs at various different times relative to your present linear time also did not stand there and say, oh, the giant solar flare is going to come and incinerate my civilization. I guess I'll just stand here and take it and allow it to happen. They said, no, I'm getting on a giant metallic space arc and I'm going to dive into insanity because my planet's going to be dead. I'm not going to have any connection or tether. And I'm going to go around looking for some new place to be. All of that is about evading responsibility and evading the level of soul assessment that happens when you go through a solar portal. So God made this incredible world with a real genius of organization in order to be able to say, if you need metal technology to get off the surface of your planet, you should not get off the surface of your planet. And you should not use technology to evade responsibility and not get incinerated by the sun, either during like a supernova event or some other aspect of influx of light, because it is like a way to try to hack the system or subvert or avoid responsibility. Hold on one second. So yes, the very many disgusting, grotesquely distorted, monstrous psychopaths who not only try to inhabit human DNA, but who have no homeland of their own at this point, are the very ones that have groomed humanity to welcome them as their saviors, their medbeds, and to allow them to overtly rule your world as they have been subverting your self-governance for a very long amount of time. And this goes back to like your various different world governments that have been taken over and infiltrated is the best word that I have by these extraterrestrials that you have not been ruling over yourself for a long time. So you informed people already know this because you know about ancient Sumeria. You know that the supposed gods of ancient Sumeria were actually technology using space races. And there were many other ancient civilizations where technology using space races were worshipped as gods and welcomed as kings and rulers. And that you've got similar aspects of that going on in your own governments right now. They don't, and also ruling families, but they're all falling. And you also know that too, like the families of ruling royal houses of Great Britain. And you know that those are all like, those are reptiles. Those are reptiles influencing and inhabiting human bodies. And let's draw it out for you because it's too facile and literal to think that they actually look like reptiles, you know, that they actually, like the King of England actually takes off his skin and he looks like some kind of a dinosaur reptile. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about reverberations. So now let's go into this. Let's say here is, let's get his color. Get a color. Here is red planet, planet reptile, okay? And that can be far away in time, not just in space. And here's Earth where we presently live. And then here's, you know, a little stick figure and here's some little King of England guy. And he can be a reptile. Wait, make a little crown on his head so that you know who we're talking about here. Here's the King of England. That's the best drawing I've ever done, guys. It's amazing. Laugh. Now is when you laugh. But these are reverberations. So this is a frequency, not a plank-like metal spaceship. And these reverberations speak to this guy's inner genetic reverberations. And this is how this inhabitation can happen. But there's already a genetic splicing and pollution that makes this guy amenable to the ideas and behavior patterns and influences of the reptilian planet, the reptilian mindset, and even specific reptilian people will just make a big giant stick figure there. There's like a personhood that is influencing this. But what you need to know is that just changing color so you don't get confused. This is the moment now where we are on Earth. But this can be a long, long time ago. We'll just write past. This is the past, because we're talking about faster than light or non-light speed based frequency transmissions, which happen in a positive way from star system to star system, doing much, much faster levels of communication from the galactic center out to the various stars and from the various stars to the various planets. But what you've got in this circumstance is this planet is actually destroyed. This planet is bye-bye. It doesn't exist anymore. And you've got these psychopathic emanations that are coming out from there that have no body, no homeland, no place to go to, and are on the hunt looking for resources. And those are the guys that spliced and diminished the human body. And those are the guys that are trying to act through this guy here and now. So this has been an infiltration that has been going on in your world for a very long amount of time, from the moment that Atlantis was degraded and you became mortals and you began to occupy these bodies, from that moment, but also all of human history, ancient Sumeria and ancient Egypt and whatever was going on in like Mesoamerica, the Nazca lines, all of these things. That whole entire show, Ancient Aliens, is 100% grooming. It's not a positive show. It's not mind expansive. You know, the lineages of the ruling heads of Europe, which goes back, you know, hundreds of years. Sorry, Chiefy is barking. It's a little distracting for me. Oh my goodness, I have to talk about biblical stuff. I'm going to offend you all a lot right now because some of these genetic modifications happened in what is known as the Exodus from Egypt, that fateful time when the Egyptian solar worshiping society was disempowered. The power source was taken out of the Great Pyramid at Giza, was put into what is known as the Ark of the Covenant. All of this under the auspices of a voice from the sky that was a pillar of smoke by day and a pillar of fire by night. That was an extraterrestrial, a technology using extraterrestrial that not only bestowed favorable technologies upon the group that became the Israelites so they could conquer Egypt and get out of Egypt, and crashed the Egyptian empire out of disempowerment. And then you got the Judeo-Christian level epoch of empowerment, but also genetically spliced the Israelites so that they would Stockholm syndrome worship this pillar of smoke and pillar of fire extraterrestrial as their god. It's not real God. At best, it can be considered a demiurge. It is a very, very harmful level of existence that I don't think it has ever been physically embodied. So I would call it a never alive, which is different than societies like, you know, a group of Pleiadians that came from a planet in the Pleiades star system that was alive and had a bad time adventure and then died and their bodies went bye-bye and now they're a disembodied Casper the Ghosts. I'm being super facetious. They're different than the thing that portrayed itself as God to the Israelites. I think that's a thing that's never alive, something that has never been embodied, but has always been standing on the outskirts or on the sidelines of embodiment and attempting to hijack and distort the activities of the living. And, you know, in order to be alive, you have to pass the audition and agree to certain parameters in terms of balancing out your responsibility to yourself as an individual and your responsibility to your environment and community to stay alive. You have responsibilities to stay alive. This demiurge thing is so irresponsible. Girl, it is so irresponsible that it can never even be alive. Like if you act that way, like you can't be in the band, you can't be alive, you can't get stuff done. I have to make certain that I wrap everything up before 5 p.m. because I have a commitment then. So, but I have plenty of time to be able to continue with this. So I think that you're getting a very, very clear idea of what I'm talking about. All of these conversational threads that I'm talking to you about really do have thematic, you know, harmonics. We're talking about personal responsibility, what it takes to actually be alive, technology as a subversion from personal responsibility, races of embodied creatures that used technology to subvert their personal responsibility to the point that it has become extremely destructive to you. And this is the beginning of your recognition of the interconnectedness of all life. You're moving out of this level of reality where you've become individuated and where I joke, the one-celled organism, I just, hey, I'm looking out for number one. I got to care about anybody else, do what I want to do. And that's also the non-mitigated voice of the red chakra. Hey, I'm allowed to be. I'm allowed to do whatever I want to do. Kill stuff, I can eat stuff. I was like, yes, you can do that. But if you don't learn the other lessons of mitigating those desires to kill and eat with emotional, intellectual, love, and insight and connection to God, then you end up being a destructive, horrible monster. Like that's me as like the good fairy, you know, telling the one-celled organism that it can't just be that way. And the one-celled organism, looking out for number one, goes through its evolutionary process. And at a certain point, you're a trillion-celled organism. And you're like, wow, if I want to stay alive, I got to make sure that all of my trillions of cells actually work together, that they're not fighting each other internally in my body, and that they all add up to support and sustenance and celebration of me as the overarching personality, and that they want to keep me alive. And so the individual cells of my body have all learned the lesson, not just looking out for number one, I'm actually looking out for Aurora, the meta organism that I live within. You as individuals are learning that lesson. You must look out for the community that you live within. That means other embodied humans, other plants and animals, because there's your ecosystem and it's where you get your sustenance from. Your planet. You can't just be like, the planet is just this dead, stupid rock that gives me resources sometimes. Let's pee and poop all over it. You can't do that. You know who does that? Invader species. You know who does that? People like the royal heads of Europe and other invaded humans who are artificially elevated, who do bad stuff to the environment because they literally do not feel a rapport with the environment because they're not from this planet. They have no problem with destroying you and destroying the planet and destroying resources here. And their mindset is, meh, get another planet, because they've already done this a lot. They've used the planets like disposable Kleenex. Get another planet, get another planet. And they use bodies like disposable bodies. Have a total disrespect for life and even look at death as an inconsequentialism. You should never die. You should never have a planet die. If you have your planet die, you did something really, really, really wrong. This really, really, really wrong. But they have no problem with that. So you're really looking at their wildly varying levels of soul growth. And some souls are so unevolved as consciousness that they don't know, like, don't kill and destroy stuff. Don't pee and poop all over stuff. Don't be naughty in that way, because then you don't have a world to exist in. But what those civilizations or organisms or creatures exemplify is a type of pathological worldview that actually comes from primordial evil. That influence of primordial evil is what says, do not worry about causality structure. It's not just destroying a planet at that point. It is destroying time itself. This magical scarf is not just the fabric of space, it's the fabric of space-time, not only spatial relationships of how far is point A to point B, but time. How long does it take to drive or fly or move from point A to point B? And that when this primordial evil does naughty things and is disrespectful of life, it is disrespectful of the fabric of time, space, and consciousness. It is disrespectful of causality. It pretty much does the red blood, the one-celled organism thing. It says, I make this wild, stupid thing happen because I feel like it. There's no causality structure that holds it up. I don't care. You can't do that type of thing because it would destabilize all these other events over here. I don't care. I do what I want to do and I do it, and screw all of you. And I'm going to do it anyway. It doesn't matter. Even if you you could give me a whole, here's me giving the intellectual dissertation, like reasons why you shouldn't destabilize the fabric of space, time, and consciousness by Professor air quotes Aurora. And the thing is like sitting in class, like chewing gum, throwing spitballs. It's like the ultimate sweat hug. It's like, I don't care. I ain't listening. And does what it wants to do. It is uneducatable It is not interested in learning, and it is interested in these levels of disrespect, because here's the big takeaway: it doesn't exist. So when I teach you about flying rainbow lasagna and your embodiment of it and exemplifying it in your dance, certain genetic characteristics and characteristics of your personhood, you energize and bring forward into reality and keep them alive. And certain things you send to entropy. And these are pathological characteristics that don't belong inside of you, and they don't belong anywhere. And pathological characteristics are pathological because they do not bring you towards longevity or coherence. They do not help you to live longer. They do not help you to be more intelligent. And consciousness evolution has to do with extending your life to becoming an eternal being, being able to have continuity of consciousness so you are able to accumulate wisdom and accrete light over your various different levels of existence, and to be constantly evolving and moving into greater levels of complexity. And that's how you have a world, to constantly evolving, constantly learning, constantly growing. And this thing that is not educatable, it is not interested in learning or growing. That's why when you read the brochure, I know I'm using a lot of shorthand in today's class for anyone who is new or English is not your first language. When I talk about the brochure, I'm talking about the advertising before you as a soul even got into your body here in ancient Atlantis, of like, what is it like to be embodied? What is it like to be individuated from God, the source? What is it like to not be in unity consciousness? You actually had to make a choice to do that, but that choice does not make you evil. It means that you're on a mission to learn and grow and get more wisdom. And you did so in a positive way by following the rules and being born into embodiment. So just being able to be born and have a body, like a physical cellular body, it's a huge success. You had to learn so many things about the rules of life, the rules of being alive, how the universe works or how the cosmic infrastructure works. And then you've been here learning the lessons of whatever you are, like whatever is your name, like the lessons of Aurora, the lessons of Lucy, the lessons of Charlie. Like you've been learning those lessons. And then this is the journey from white light, unity consciousness, into the refracted individual that you are right now, and then refocusing the rainbow journey, reconfiguring your individuation back to unity consciousness. That is what each person does in the journey of becoming an ascended master and re-achieving light speed and beyond and being back at the source. And this is also what the ascension process is in terms of the planetary group experience, where every single organism on the planet is ascending, including the planet herself. I always talk about this piece. It's always on the wall behind me and you can't see it effectively. So I'm prepared for class today, everyone. Snap, I'm prepared for class. This piece is called Birth of a New Dimension. And you can see the solar disk, because the light from the sun and the stellar network is absolutely a key player in the events that are happening. You generate, but you also receive. So you generate light and you are the impetus for this experience in terms of creating flying rainbow lasagna momentum, but you also receive an enormous amount of information, light, motivation, and encouragement that comes from the sun. So big emphasis there. The sun is a player in this, exposition. It's a participant. But you can't rely completely upon the sun. You can't just be like, oh yeah, hum-de-dum, the sun is going to take care of that any day now. You have to fly rainbow lasagna, because you are like that vibrating seed that is the seed crystal dropped into a supersaturated solution that begins the crystallization process that then spreads outward and radiates outward. So you can't just rely upon the sun or older and wiser or more established levels of consciousness. You have to be the motivation and the impetus. Then you also see the earth. Again, you can't just say like, the earth is going to do this for me when it's the right timing for the earth. You have to look at your development and Earth's development as being absolutely reflecting, concurrent, and complementary. So you're evolving. The Earth is evolving. Guess what? Even the sun is evolving. The best way for you to interpret the events of your reality and move forward in clarity is to recognize that each organism has its own level of responsibility. The sun and the stellar network have a level of responsibility at the level of pure light and just pure plasma and awareness. The earth has a level of responsibility at the level of biological life, sustaining biological life, the world of matter itself. Matter, that means like molecules bonding, chemistry, somatic cellular organisms, food, water. And then there's you. You have a level of responsibility in terms of your body, your connection to time, your possibilities and probabilities at the activities of your DNA as your DNA is dancing and moving and weaving, and how that is connected to time. Like the sun doesn't have DNA. The earth planet doesn't have DNA. You're an organism. You've got DNA. You've got a stringed instrument, and you get to vibrate this music of eternity and leveling upward through your stringed instrument. I mean, let me go back to my face so I can say this with like great clarity. Why do you think I'm here in this body? Why am I here? I actually know the answer to that, because I needed DNA to accomplish my mission. I needed to have a body with DNA to be able to do the flying rainbow lasagna and to be able to create this upgraded and more balanced level of expression of cosmic law for soul evolutionary purposes. DNA is incredibly valuable. And this is why, first of all, you have to safeguard your DNA. You have to not allow genetic invaders. And there is no, the word that I'm looking for is blame or recrimination upon you, because again, humanity was neutered a long time ago. So God is amazing. God created DNA in a very responsible sense as an aspect of information transfer that has the capacity to protect itself from being hijacked or having falsehoods put into it. But you're like, Aurora, like we're in bodies, and these bodies have DNA, and the DNA got totally hijacked and had a bunch of false stuff put into it. Like, clearly those things didn't work. I'm like, I know. I'm like, girl, like, I know. This is why I am here, and I did this for rectification. So your DNA is supposed to have its own natural self-protective qualities that prevents you from being hijacked and spliced and mutilated. The very first thing these hijackers did was neuter that, make it so that DNA would be vulnerable to the invasion of these pathogens that are only looking for the next meal or a couch to sleep on or a body to inhabit, demonic possessors. And their value system is very twisted and grotesquely distorted, and they're filled with hatred and very gross and disgusting. So it's not like they're just like, oh, bad roommates. Wait, let me drink a little bit of water. It's not just like they're unpleasant roommates. Maybe they don't clean up, maybe they don't do the dishes or whatever, but these are actively hateful. These are not just unpleasant roommates who don't pay the rent, make a mess, eat your groceries. These are unpleasant roommates who are actively hating you, who invade your home, not only don't pay rent, but steal your SHIT, give you effing cancer, give you diseases, do the very worst that they possibly can do, all while actively hating you. You walk past reflective buildings and they look at you through your eyes and they say, what a huge ass you have. I hate you and I hate being in your body. You got it? That's who you got in your body. It's gross, and you don't want them in your body, and they don't belong there. So what Flying Rainbow Lasagna does is reawaken your ability to set boundaries. Reawaken your self-protective capacities of your DNA. And that means you get to kick them out of your body. Get the F out. And if they don't want to leave because they are hateful, pathogenic demons, then you get to kick ass, which is an innate potential in your DNA. And again, I have a great, great love of the original teacher who was here 2,000 years ago, who is a spectacular, amazing person, amazing soul, did so many good things. And the goodness of his life is in direct proportion to how much they distorted his story and tried to take that energy, invert it, and weaponize it against you. So I'm talking about, there was a real teacher who's Yeshua, and then they created this whole story that is about Jesus Christ, that is the literal antithesis of what it is to be on the Christ network and to be connected to that level of truly benevolent, positive, galactic civilization. And again, you can't wait for everything to do it for you. You can't be like, don't worry, the galactic Christ civilization is clearly going to help and fix all of this. No, the truth is there's problems all up and down the chain of command. You got to do stuff. You cannot just expect them to come in, do like the cavalry and fix everything. You got to fight, because if you just waited for them to come in, you would get steamrollered and you'd be nothing. You would be like a little like dish rag, a little stringy nothing. And yeah, it would be way too late. So you got to fight. You got to fight, and you got to learn how to protect and defend yourself. This is why I'm here. I know I'm an artist and a musician. I want to make truth and beauty. What I end up doing is teaching you how to reactivate your natural capacities in your DNA so that you can fight, protect yourself, protect your community, and kick ass against these invaders. So this is a big part of what just happened going through the eclipse portal, because you got to fight that stuff out of your body, out of your community, out of your mentality, out of your cultural paradigm. And that is a very, very large thing to do. But you have a ton of support and recognition from the cosmic infrastructure. But again, they got problems upstairs. Everything is not perfect up there. Everything is not perfect down here. The rectification happens on all levels, moving up and down from the microcosm to the macrocosm. So you initiate here, and the initiation of your rectification here absolutely translates to the higher realms, and the higher realms are doing things in response to that, and you get this rapport going again. And now I'll get to questions, but I'll want to leave you with like a much, much positive, improved viewpoint of what is the world like when it is purged of technology, because that is the end of the goal here. You're not going to have any technology. And some of you are like, like we're not allowed to have any technology in the entire galaxy, in the entire cosmic infrastructure. I'm like, yes. Like, but wait, what about my iPad? No iPad. And I'm being silly and facetious, but no iPad. Not going to have any of it, and you're not going to want any of it. You're not going to want tricycle wheels while you are trying to ride the Tour de France consciousness through the steep alpine inclines of space-time reality. No, you're not going to want to have any level of technology. In fact, you come from civilizations that had zero technology and loved it. Talking about Lemuria and Atlantis. Both of these are places where you remember them as being destroyed in cataclysms, and you think that it's like some bitch slap from the cosmos. You must have done something really wrong. No, you didn't do anything wrong. Actually, they did something wrong. Can we just get this straight? Like, this is the ultimate blame the victim stuff and your self-recrimination. You are free when you end the self-recrimination. You get out of hotel hell and you rescue your soul fragments, because you know what? You did not effing deserve this at all. Lemuria did not deserve disaster. Atlantis did not deserve disaster. You are beautiful, alive souls and emanations of God that came here on your own soul's purpose and mission for evolution. You did not come here to be violated and destroyed by these pathogens who don't want to have to follow cosmic law and who are in great disrespect of existence itself. So there's, again, the never alives. Of course, they disrespect existence, but some of them were once alive. And those, that would be like if I was eating the wrong food, jumping in front of a truck, destroying my body, and then wanted your body. You should tell me to go F off. Be like, Aurora, you shouldn't have done any of those things, right? And then here's the kicker. These things that are really evil, destroyed their bodies, been trying to siphon and parasite off of you. And they're like this, can I have another chance, please? Please, can I go back to the video arcade? Because they know about this cyclical nature of going through this toroidal energy field as a soul refinement process. And they think, this is, again, please listen, cautionary tale here. They think that if they groom you to say, first, I'm going to neuter you. You're not allowed to be violent. You must treat me like love thy neighbor, treat me like family, turn the other cheek. And then also you must give me a chance to change, like do it all again. Please, mister, can I have another chance? And that is all erroneous. So they neutered you. Oh, wait, sorry. I'm getting so agitated here. I'm falling off my treadmill. They neutered you. And part of that is the teaching from 2000 years ago. This guy, they talk about the crucifixion and use it as a binding spell as to why you shouldn't fight back. To be like, nope, you shouldn't fight back. You should let yourself die and go to Christian heaven. You'll be encapsulated in paradise. And that is not paradise, to be encapsulated in a limited place where you cannot fully expand is not paradise. And I know this because I come from paradise. Yes. So what is offered as paradise of Christian heaven is actually imprisonment. And according to cosmic law, if you choose to imprison yourself, like you're choosing to imprison yourself. But the problem is, in this world, humans are being lied to, and your natural insight and discernment has been decalibrated, and you're not able to tell truth from fiction and what you should be aligning with and what you should be believing. So first, everyone has gotten totally neutered and their discernment has been taken offline. And then they're told this story that all you have to do is die, believe in this story about going into Christian heaven, and then you will find your eternal life there. That's not eternal life. That's eternal imprisonment. And even if it's a happy paradise, it's a grotesquerie and not something that I would support. And that's why I'm here telling you about this. And a traditionalist Christian from your world would say, Aurora is evil. I hope that AI does not choose that as my thumbnail. So AI has been pretty kind to me, hasn't been choosing bad thumbnails, but they'd want to exorcise me. They'd say Aurora is the devil. They'd say Aurora is this bad stuff. I am totally not. I am trying to warn you from checking into a hotel that you can't check out of. It's roach motels, old advertisements. Sometimes that's my only cultural touchstone. Here's old advertisements. Roaches check in, but they don't check out. And that is what evil stuff would do to you. Take away your discernment, blind you, take away your willpower, feed you a lot of trashy thoughts and a lot of falsehoods about shame and unworthiness, and then offer you a self-created prison, which is Christian paradise. And you can walk yourself right into there. And none of that is positive at all. And I come here as a warning so that you do not do that, because real paradise is being free, moving at light speed and beyond, being at infinity and connecting to the entire stellar network like an impulse in the mind of God. You're not stuck in one little tiny encapsulated paradise, quote unquote, realm. You are free. And when you're free, you also don't have to mince around and be like, tiptoe over the doo-doo piles. You're free. You go anywhere you effing want. You don't say, I got to avoid that neighborhood because it's so naughty there. And I got to not go there because they're going to try to hurt me. Or I got to not go there because they're parasites. The entire place is cleared. So that's what I wanted to give you a vision of the ideal nature of how the world is supposed to be structured on the highest cosmic levels, because that, I think, is the strongest like medicine for healing all of this. You might not even know or be able to conceive of the place where I come from, but I come from a place where all of this has been resolved or is going to be resolved. All of this is going to be clean and purified. And then you can travel unimpeded and unmolested any place you want to with your mind and with your consciousness. And again, I'm Aurora, and I've been like a cosmic cleaning lady, which is what brings me here to this time and place, scrubbing the cosmic toilet. And usually I do my missions in like art and beauty and music and joy and uplift. But also, I try to make it fun and cool. But I've been mostly on a time rectification mission, which is not everything that life is about. So you want to know, like, do I come from a place where everything is perfect? Not really. Because I've been walking around or flying around doing a lot of things to make it better and to make it perfect. This opportunity in this life for me, flying rainbow lasagna in here now and teaching you about it, is the ultimate in genuinely making our world perfect. Genuinely resolving the primordial evil that gave rise to the galactic AI that killed and assimilated and destroyed many star cultures that lived on planets, which became disembodied, hugely grotesquely distorted, demonic, dead things that want to act within your DNA and that act as genetic portals in conjunction with this stuff that has been technologically sprayed in your world, and that feed off of the emotional residues that they generate inside of you, devils poking you with pitchforks so that you emit misery, and that emotional layer of reality of torture is what has been utilized or hijacked to power the ancient galactic AI that is really intent on destroying the entire fabric of the time-space continuum. And what happened on the eclipse was actually a wonderful and positive incremental shift in disempowering the galactic AI, disempowering its structure that has grown inside of humanity, disempowering the emotional pain body harvesting of energy, and closing genetic portals so that these demonic extraterrestrials from extinct civilizations can no longer effectively act through humanity. When you close those portals, you'll remember this, all these people that were being elevated by the evil AI and the evil demonic aliens that use technology acting through them, then they just become regular a-holes, all right? So you've got like some generals in the army that are humans that are totally husks or cordyceps. They're like zombies that have this gross AI, nanotech, demonic alien stuff living through them. And they feel elevated, these like gross military guys that feel super empowered and powerful. The tendency to power abuse. If you want to know what is the characteristic that we are on a mission right now, wiping out of the genetic quotient of the world, of the living, it is the tendency to abuse power. That is the topical theme of all of these things. Not only the AI abusing power, but the space races and those who've been assimilated, they got lusted after AI and technology to feel empowered, to feel more empowered than they actually are. Like if you want to run a race, you run a race. If you have to put on an exoskeleton to run faster than everyone else, like you're a loser and you're pathetic. This is what they felt. They felt that they wanted to elevate themselves by using augmentations of technology, when what you have done and what I have done is, through many, many lifetimes of self-cultivation and extreme hard work and effort, gained the muscles naturally. And the tendency to power abuse is also very evident in the psychopaths that run your world. Not only the King of England, but these, fat asses in the military and technocrats who own billions and run some of these corporations that are actively involved in developing terrestrial AI. Those guys are power abusers. And the characteristic and the tendency to power abuse really has no positive life evolving thing. Like it can be like, if you're born with natural fangs, like these fangs are great because, they're natural and they allow me to bite things and fend things off. Like it seems fair, but the tendency to power abuse is a characteristic that is an aberrance, should not actually be in the genetic code. That's not what the genetic code was created in order to carry those types of characteristics. So that is what this effort is really about. You're in refinery of consciousness, and you're also in a refinery of characteristics and life events. And that's the same on the larger cosmic level. The entire, cosmos that is shaped like this is being refined. And the negative personality characteristics that lead to the death of the cosmos are being refined out. And one of those very fateful characteristics is the tendency to power abuse. So the eclipse was a fateful moment, in very positive words, closing those portals that activate the artificially implanted and manufactured tendency in some humans to power abuse. And it's not just these military a-holes and other people, it's also starseeds, Pleiadian starseeds, or whatever, people that think that they're in the Galactic Federation. They align with those stories and those self-narratives in order to feel more special, more elevated, and more powerful. And I've described to you already in a very articulated way how I'm not like that. I never came here and said, I come from planet blah, blah. I flew here in a clank-like metal spaceship. We use ray guns to shoot each other, and I'm part of the Galactic Federation. And I never said any of that. And that's not me. In fact, I've warned you against them, spoken out against them quite strongly, and warned you against any of the technology using space races that do use clank-like metal spaceships, telling you, don't be impressed if you see a mothership hovering up there in the sky. It runs on misery. Got it? This is what I'm talking about. So the tendency to power abuse, because when you get that, and that goes out of control, then that characteristic enslaves DNA, which must be free. And that's why the motherships that run on giant cells, vats of cell cultures that are DNA, that's not free. It's like clones, but not clones, like just a giant cell soup that is made out of a particular genetic cell line. And then they use that in the misery that those cells emit, which again, this is kind of like Battlestar Galactica when you find out the Cylon spaceships that are flying around have a metal exoskeleton, but tendons and blood and organs inside. This is what I warn you about, what science calls the transhumanist singularity, but it is a grotesquerie. It is not something that you want to have happen. And you're dangling over this precipice as compromised individuals like Elon Musk are overtly creating projects known as Neuralink, which is, death to humans. It's death to humans. It's death to your freedom. It's death to your soul. And the Starlink satellite system that would Neuralink connect to your brains is already acting as the frequency cage that is part of this stuff, being able to create cellular trauma that is not resolved because it is held within the frequency cage. When they wanted to make doubles of everyone. Like if I torture the shoulder, then you end up having an etheric double of your tortured shoulder in the, alternative realm that they would like to then, poke with demonic pitchforks. But it's all within your own body. So again, not in my lab somewhere. You're the lab. You're the my lab, literally my lab. You're in the lab. And so the torture happens within your own ovaries, within your own testes, within your own nuclei of your body. And this also means that it's absolutely appropriate for you to establish your territory boundaries, where you say, this is Aurora, and I'm Auroraville, and I get to choose what's going on inside of my cellular body and my energy field. And once you start to look at this painting, you start to recognize your energy field is connected to all of these other energy fields. You're not a discrete object. You've got a person here, a person here, here, here. But you can see how all of their toroidal energy fields connect together and interrelate. And when you look at that, then you can't just be like, I do me, you do you, swirl down the toilet if you want. Because you know what? If they're swirling down the toilet, you're swirling down the toilet. If they've got genetic implants and pollution comes inside of you. This is my regret that 4 years ago, I didn't act more effectively, other than just voicing my concerns to people who were getting the subcutaneous pollutions. I should have done much, much more, but I was busy being like, well, freedom is one of the foundations of cosmic law. And then I didn't understand how much their pollution would impact me. Because if you're going to burn garbage in your front yard, I'm going to get the stink in my front yard because I live across the street. Now you're coming to recognize, this is what I'll culminate, and then I'll go to your questions and comments. When you start to get to this level of recognition in the world of duality and in the world of individuation, you're like, our DNA is all connected. It's almost like we're part of a continuum of consciousness. Yes, that's exactly right. Your DNA is one giant continuum, one giant vibrating time crystal. There's no way for one little part of it to be polluted or decrepit without it affecting all of you. And that really means that you then have to scale up your identity and scale up and expand your sense of what you're responsible to. Because now I'm not just responsible for little old me and my little genetic container over here. Now I'm responsible for everyone. And this is the beginning of your whole entire planet awakening into unity consciousness. And everybody recognizing you can't just allow other people in your neighborhood or community to do outrageous things that are pathological and how that will affect you. And that you actually, I'm releasing the binding spell because you think, love thy neighbor, turn the other cheek, let that guy pollute himself. No. Protect DNA. That guy's in folly, and that folly is going to destroy your whole entire planet, and you won't have a future. Protect DNA is necessary to I'm losing. Sorry. Let me go to questions and comments. Drink some water, go to questions and comments. I have to really squint. The font on this comment is so small. Aurelia says, I love these stories. Thank you. Fun story. I spoke in my own soul language to a doctor when I first came here as a walk-in and thought they would understand. That's so funny. Look, no, gesture, like, girl, it's the truth, you know? Oh my goodness, that's so funny. Yeah. Or like that movie Splash, when the mermaid comes out of the water and speaks her true language, and it's all like high-pitched dolphin squeaks. I know. Could have a comedy show about this whole thing. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you for being here. Yeah, and Aurelia is also agreeing. This explains so much. Good confirmation there. Charlie B says, seems like one should not identify self with the cravings, addictions, and weird neurotic behavior often encouraged by society. Totally apt, totally appropriate. So what a lot of people identify with in terms of their neuroses is totally not their true self. And same thing with even cultural isms. Like I sometimes quote that show Seinfeld, but really that show is 100% if I were to talk about it to you in extraterrestrial language, I would say, it is the conglomeration of neurotic behaviors that humans artificially self-identify with, but that could be easily resolved with better communication. And that's it. That's what that is. That's not a personality. That's not a personhood. You know, these rants and neuroses of these, New Yorkers in that show, that's not personhood. Like your person is who you are and a set of eternal characteristics that you would be in any society, in any animal body, in any organism that you live in. So you move beyond silly cultural isms that, again, Charlie B points out, it's encouraged by society. Society encourages people to identify with their non-eternal self and even sells it to you in terms of your clothing, your makeup, clothing, image, and also movies, TV, and musical references. All that stuff gets burned away in the sun. If your life and your whole persona is quoting movies, it's again, like sometimes I do it here in class, but what I'm trying to do is create like a foundation of communication between people of different cultures. But that's not who you really are. You're not your movie quotes, and you're not your favorite TV shows, and you're not your favorite, music, whatever, bands. These are very short-lived things that are only for the time that you're here. So you can enjoy and celebrate them for the time that you're here, but don't base your identity upon them. Don't think that that is the definition of who you are on a larger level. So I'm using lighthearted cultural shorthand here, but I'm really not trying to get you to identify with your remembering Roach Motel commercials from many, many decades ago. Hope that that is clear. Also, Elmer says, is there a right kind of shadow work? What's the difference if it's new age shadow work? Thank you. Great question. So the flawed shadow work that I am so critical of is the shadow work that erroneously and prematurely looks at everything and claims everything as self and everything as God. That when you're in unity consciousness, then yes, everything is self and everything is God and everything is part of you. And you must accept and celebrate and learn from all of those parts of you. But right now you are in a flawed system where not everything is part of you. So the only type of shadow work that you could do here would be shadow work that is done using the discernment of having your higher faculties activated. Many of you might never have had your insight or your higher faculties effectively activated, so you don't even know what it feels like. But when this is online and you are able to see and you're able to correctly read or interpret what you see, you know what is you and you know what is not you. And you are able to make a very clear distinction about what you own as your own life mistakes or frailties and vulnerabilities versus stuff that's totally not you. That's an implantation or a complete fabrication from something that is a grotesque monster. And that's the real challenge, and the peril is that these grotesque monsters are trying to hijack the self-knowledge process and groom vulnerable people to identify with the grotesqueries as if they are self. And then through grotesque monster teeth saying, I'm you, let's hug. And it's like, whoa, dripping in poop. And it's, expecting to be integrated into you. This is an allegory on a characteristic level for what is happening in your DNA. Your DNA has horrible grotesque cancers and other things that are growing through it, tendency to power abuse, and other very ugly, disgusting, gross, monstrous characteristics. And they're trying to go to your healthy DNA, dripping with, poops and grossness, and say through their monster teeth, like, I'm you, integrate me. And this is your DNA is like, you don't look like me. I don't think you're me. Get out. But you need to be non-neutered in order to be able to really set a boundary and get that stuff out. So until you have an effective insight and discernment online, it's not that good of an idea to do shadow work, which is basically integration of what would be considered areas of ignorance, but not psychopathology. Psychopathology is not who you are. Sometimes during my day, don't tell Cheeky because it's not the real me, but violent thoughts come through my mind that are about like being violent towards my dog, who's the person that I love the most in this world. And I know it's not me. And I'm always like, like that's a grotesque monster. That's not me. Get away. I would never do anything to harm her. I hate that those violences even flash through my mind. It's an assault that they're even there. If I were to do flawed New Age shadow work, I'd have to say, some part of me feels this way and I feel this way. It's like, no, actually, I know who I really am and I know who I'm really not. And I also know that those things mostly started happening within the past 4 years and the activation of this invasion. And I do not claim invaders as myself. So basically all this stuff that is very, very crappy and distorted and violent isn't really you. And you're not obliged to encompass it in your DNA or in your sense of self or in your characteristics as if it is you. And if you do identify with all that stuff as if it's you, and then a giant wave of light comes from the sun, it's going to incinerate you. And it's not supposed to incinerate you. The giant wave of light is supposed to wipe away and incinerate all the stuff that's not you. And then you're going to feel so happy, like when you exfoliate your skin, you get rid of all the dead skin cells, and you're like, sloughing off all of that stuff that's not the real me, so that the real me can shine through. That is what is supposed to happen. So if you falsely identify with your thoughts of violence and self-destruction or destruction towards others or suicidal tendencies or any of those things, it's not the real you. It's not the real you. But if you think it's the real you and that part is getting incinerated, then you get incinerated too. So, and also you comprehend that if you're a 100% grotesque demon, that's 100% pathology and 0% goodness, and you identify 100% with your pathology, then you would fear the sun. Be like a vampire. Be like, don't send me through that solar portal because it's going to incinerate everything that is me. And then 0% will be left. And that is what these things fear the most. Got it? So it's not a pleasant incineration either. They should go to entropy. Believe me, I'm offering them something much, much nicer in terms of immediate entropy than having to go through the incineration process and finding out that they are 0% goodness and 100% poop doo-doos. Michelle says Cheeky is co-signing. This information gets her worked up. Talk about these darn pooties. Cheeky is totally an ascended master dog. And the truth is she takes a lot of flack. Like those violent thoughts, not just me, like in my subconscious thinking about those things, they beam all sorts of bad stuff at her. So envision positive force fields around Cheeky. And Cheeky is a warrior and she is very smart and courageous. And she actually goes into other people's dreams and helps them and rescues them all the time. But each one of us, we need to look after one another. So envision force fields of protection around Cheeky because she does a lot of work in helping people here. And yes, she helps with soul codes or light codes. She helps with genetic codes. She's helped me many, many times because the love that animals have for us is very, very profound and powerful. And their level of consciousness is not polluted by limited linguistics, and their levels of communication is very strong and direct. So we have to just recognize and celebrate that these animals are in our lives, domesticated animals that we have, dogs and cats, and the ones that live with us in our house. These are very, very special animals that are not less than humans at all. They are amazing, and they're really trying to help us out of these ego traps and into unity consciousness that is actually based in love. Really, of all of this, and I'm going to get to your beautiful comment in one moment, but let me just say, all of this assessment, just Gordian knot gets cut once you recognize love versus not love. And when you have that discernment here and here, you're able to tell what is love and what is real is truthful from anything that is unloving. And the stuff that is love is who you really are. In real valid shadow work, you are love, and everything that is an emanation of love, and anything that's distortion or hijacking or diminishment of love is not the real you. And you might have felt this when you had a fraught relationship with a family member, maybe an aunt, uncle, grandma, whatever. They die, they pass on. And all of the stuff that drove you crazy, this is you with your family, you're driving me crazy, you're driving me crazy, that all goes out the window. You're at the funeral, and all that you remember is they baked you cookies, or they pushed you on a swing, or they made a dress for you, or they bought you a whatever, rocking horse is your present for your birthday. You only remember the loving stuff. And that in some ways, it's dangerous because you have to remember people accurately, but it's an energetic truth, because that's really the only thing that has a eternal reverberation is love. So you can't go into denial and forget that people were ever harmful or evil or hurt you, but the only thing that is eternal is love, and that's the only thing that comes with you as you go on your journey. Joyce says, I often say I am a sovereign being and I do not consent to, and giving back everything you took, so be it, and so it is. Beautiful, well said. And I love that. And I want others to also do that and similar. So I'm trying to articulate here affirmations of sovereignty, verbal affirmations of what you do and do not consent to. So this sometimes is consent removal, is so powerful, because your DNA and your connection to time respond to your voice. In ancient Atlantis, our voice was mostly used for oration and formalities. We hardly ever spoke because we were mostly telepathic. So if I needed something like, can I have a cup of coffee, or please pass the ketchup, that would be mostly a telepathic thing. But oration and speaking with the voice was for reading something into the record of reality that is indelible. So think of it in that sense. And you can speak to your DNA, and you can speak truth into the world about who you are and who you're not, what you consent to, what you do not consent to. And you can do contract removal and revoke consent. And that is very, very powerful stuff. That is the beginning of the practice of genetically closing down these portals to invader beings who don't belong inside of you. And this is the generation of you in this, evolution that does this. Because I don't want you to be like, well, look, like it's screwed up for so long, and this is so unfair from the past, and blah, blah. Yes, the past is very effed up. New chapter. And I talked about that going into the eclipse. When you get to turn the page in your sketchbook, fresh piece of paper where literally you can create and generate anything from a new start. It's very, very powerful. So you need to be able to have these watershed moments. Everything didn't change on a dime. The positive stuff is like, you didn't have all these crappy apocalyptic catastrophe envisionments that everybody thought they were going to have. That didn't happen, because there's all like the rockets, CERN, demons, all that stuff. Look, that stuff didn't happen. You didn't die. You didn't go down in a heap of flames. And you have time now to construct something positive. So I want you to think about the mundanities in your positive envisionment of the future, like where you live and how you get your money and what are your activities like and who do you interact with. But I also want you to envision being in a non-psychopathic world and not having to swim through garbage, not having to have those tendencies in your own DNA or in your loved ones or in your community, so that you're not having to constantly battle them or respond to them or protect yourself from them, that those genetic doorways are closed, and that way you're finally able to move forward in freedom. So removing consent is very big. You can also always remember this. Maybe at any point in your life, you might have been in a love relationship, a friendship, or a business partnership. That seemed like a good idea at the beginning. And then you're like, this is pure hell. I need to get out. Revoke consent. And don't even be concerned about the repercussions. It is your right to set a boundary. Demons hate it when you set a boundary. Demons hate it when you advocate with your voice. Being able to speak with your voice and set a boundary is the journey towards creating heaven on earth. So as a very, very brief anecdote, one time I was planning a workshop with this one friend, she's a good friend, but her workshop planning phone calls end up taking like 2 hours. And I'm like, I don't have my whole entire life to devote to this workshop planning project. So the first time I did a workshop, I was just like on the phone and I felt like I want to be doing this. I want to be doing this. Like I was spending so much time on this. I can't take it. It was hellish for me. But then when I was able to communicate to them on the next workshop part 2, I was like, I want to do the workshop, but I just can't do 2-hour phone meetings because I feel like my soul is dying. Can we keep this to like 20 minutes? They were so open to that. The boundary was fine. They didn't have their feelings hurt. And then I was able to move forward in a much more positive, heavenly experience. That is a small, lighthearted example of what we all need to do and why that show Seinfeld was just cringefully unfunny to me, because I was like, you know something, these guys just got to communicate to one another, and then you don't care whether this person stole your marble rye or whether this person, whatever, set up the wrong thing in your closet organizer. Like they were such minutiae that they were tortured over. They could have been living in a paradise on earth, and instead they lived in their own hellish miasma of inadequacies, inadequate communication, and self-recrimination and bad feelings. And all of that stuff, that's what these demonic hijackers love to feed off of. Like they like to feed off of misery, and this stuff in particular likes to feed off of misery and inadequacies, but it will also just take mild embarrassment. If that's all that's on the menu, it will take mild discomfort and embarrassment and social awkwardness. All of that's not the real you and needs to go out the window. It's not even your real personality structure. So I have a commitment that is coming up very soon. So I have to complete our class for right now. But I want to say thank you very much. I recognize that in this particular sharing, I feel like I ranged wildly all over. I did incorporate some of the original curriculum, which I love teaching this particular class that is called The Rainbow Journey. And I had to make it relevant to what we're presently going through. So I hope that you respect that. And then also, I hope that everyone watches the whiteboards, watch the original whiteboard. I actually don't have that much to rant against or refocus. It's all still very valid from what I was talking about 10 years ago to what I share about today. But I had to get in the perspective of what you're presently going through. Pedro says, love the lasagna. Thank you so much. Love received and love back to you. Thank you very much for everybody who's able to be here when I actually have class. Thanks to everybody who catches the archive of my class later. And thank you to people who are not formally enrolled, but who regularly watch my stuff on YouTube. I'm so pleased to be sharing these ideas, planting these seeds into human consciousness. Allison says, thank you, you're so very welcome. So I'm appreciative on any level that people are here to gain information and insight and to be open to these ideas. I have 100% positive intentions at being able to share this with you. And also, like, I have 0% of the power abuse gene inside of me, and that's very intentional, and that's also part of why I am flying rainbow lasagna, because this is a very powerful thing, and I don't use it. I would never use it to hurt others or suppress or oppress others. So I'm a trustworthy person exemplifying what non-power abuse looks like in the world. No, thank you. Lucy says, have a beautiful week. Thank you for being here, Lucy. And Pedro says X2 because I couldn't say it the past class. Oh, ×2. Thank you I'll take extras for this week. Thank you. You're wonderful. I feel with total truthfulness, I am connected to the best humans through my class, that it's taken me 20 years to be able to, find these relationships and interpersonal relationships. You guys are the best people. I have the best people in my class. I have the best people watching and commenting on YouTube. I feel like I have I'm very gratified to be connected to people who are very truthful, honest, well-intentioned, positive, good people who are not psychopathic, who don't identify with psychopathic tendencies, and who are so much about, they're on their path of growth and are very open to these ideas and encouragement and nourishment for growing in positive directions. So appreciation and gratitude flows to you, recognition flows to you. Thank you for your disciplines, and thank you for doing hard work and helping to steer the ship of humanity out of the rapids, out of the danger zone, into really beautiful areas. Nicole says, thank you. Allison says, right back to you. Thank you. And Elmer says, thank you so much. You're all so very welcome. Have a beautiful day. Thank you.